6 of us were fighting against 30 people.
Oh, Jesus.
And they all had like machine guns or submachine guns.
And then a helicopter picked you up on the roof?
No, so
Where'd you get that from?
That's what I see in the movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that why they went to the roof? It's like, you got to get to the roof.
Yeah, every episode of Lioness, helicopter shows up and saves the day.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Drop a Pin. Today we got my guy Giulio, a fellow world traveler.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
The host of Places You Can Go, a stand-up comedian who just released his new special, On the Map. Check it out on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, he is like very similar to me.
Yeah.
A trip to Cancun won't really wet his whistle. He needs to he needs to take it a little more extreme.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly list off a few of the more extreme locations you've traveled to?
Yeah. I mean, Iraq and Afghanistan are sort of, at least video-wise, like the two I would say that are the most popular that I've made, at least. And then, yeah, I guess like, I don't know, Lebanon, Rwanda. Like, I know that Rwanda isn't that like, but I'm also starting to get jaded where I'm sort of like, I think place will sound exotic to one person and like not to me. So I don't know, but like nowhere that crazy. I don't know. I've been to like 50 countries.
I think I'm around the 50 mark too. Have you ever been to Venezuela?
No.
Okay. That's like, seems like a pretty extreme place to me just because they're not super friendly to Americans these days, or
Interesting.
the government at least.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it can be done.
That's like a far left country, right? With there,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
guy went a little too far left.
Yeah, I think it would be like the very far example of the left. Yeah.
Okay.
Like old school communism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, those far ends end up in a circle almost, you know?
Yeah, right. Totally did.
Well, we definitely have Iraq in common.
Totally.
Iraq or Iraq? Iraq. Yep. Boom. And I think you were one of the people, you had traveled there before me. So like, and there were like a few other
YouTubers. Right. Yeah.
A few other YouTubers that I'd seen that had been there, and that kind of like, definitely, like I was nervous at first, and then like I was just like watching some of these vids and reached out to a few of them, and they're like, no, like it's fine. You should definitely have a guide. I wasn't going to wing it. There are people who just show up and wing it now.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that, as both have gone to Iraq. When I went, I landed in a C-130. It was olive green. So like my entrance to the country wasn't that hard. We did it ourselves. But when you went, what was that process like? You have to get a visa? Like, how did you go about that process?
We did it differently, I think. So you want to go, and then I can do it?
You can go first.
All right. So I went to Basra, which is in southern Iraq, which kind of looks the way you think Iraq looks based on all the movies you see. It's like flat. You see the oil burning in the distance, when in reality, like that is the part of the country that was never really seeing any war. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's what they were
mostly,
saying.
yep.
Yeah. And then as you work your way more north, then the scenery changes a little bit, still hot, whatever. So I flew into that airport. That's a tiny airport. There was a dude with a falcon on my flight who was coming from Qatar to do falcon hunting.
Okay, yeah.
Because I guess they've like decimated most of their rodent population in some of those other countries. So like Iraq is great for falcon hunting.
All right.
Yeah, there's no shortage there. There's no shortage.
The only time I've had a falcon on my flight was Tajikistan to Dubai. A guy was coming back from a little falcon hunting
Classic,
trip.
dude.
Yeah, it's classic. It was awesome though.
That's sick, yeah.
I posted a clip. I think it was one of my first like mega viral clips. It was
Oh,
just
nice.
like the dude with the falcon in his seat, because they have their own seat. They actually they get their own passports.
Wow.
Yeah, you can
Crazy.
apply to get your falcon a passport if you're from the UAE. And there was this like 5-year-old kid who kept on trying to touch it, and his parents were just dragging him away.
Dude, that's
And the
hilarious.
sheik was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, I remember like one of the first like real like taped stand-up sets I did, that the first joke that I do in it is about that. I was sitting there with this falcon on the plane. I'm like, bro, this is like a 45-minute flight. Like surely this falcon can fly to the destination on its own. You know what I mean? Like, so Yeah, so we arrived there. The airport's like pretty small. It's not like the Baghdad airport, which is like a little bigger and whatever. And they kind of like shake you down. They hit you with this like bullshit like hotel fee that isn't a real thing. It's not like government administered. Obviously, I wasn't going to say no. There's some like British oil contractor who like checked in after us, and I hear him just going, "I'm not paying this." And they were like, "All right." And they just didn't make him pay. And then he sat down. He's like, "What are you boys doing in Iraq?" We're like, "Oh, just visiting." And he goes, "Why the hell not, right?" And I'll never know if he's fucking with me or not.
Yeah.
So then that was that. And then leaving out of Baghdad is a little more like of a standard airport situation. A lot of security and stuff. But I think there probably was entering Basra too. I just never did that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there was, at least when I was leaving the airport, you had to go through like 3 rounds of security to get even near the airport. So just as you're driving up, your car gets searched for bombs and everything. But when I arrived, the Baghdad airport looks fairly normal, besides the fact you're now in Baghdad. I think I had to get my visa beforehand, or if I got it on a...
It's definitely visa on arrival when you went.
Visa on arrival? Okay.
But I don't know if you did it before.
Yeah, well, I at least had to pay the tour company I was with beforehand and like submit some documents. I don't know if they like made us get travel insurance.
Who'd you use?
It was called Billy Tours.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of them. But yeah, they were saying the same thing. Like there were some hotels that you could get for cheap there, but they would just be like, foreigners aren't allowed to like stay at those, which I don't think that's actually the case. They just say that to funnel you guys all into the same spots.
Totally.
And then arrived, they linked us up with a tour guide. We got like 4 hours of sleep, and then we just started walking around, walked to the market district in Baghdad, which is insane. But now that I've traveled to India, I think slightly calmer than like way calmer, way more chill than Delhi, India.
I believe that for sure.
Like way less trash. It still was chaotic. Like you would see kind of like cars, bikes, and horses all sharing the same street. But yeah, now that I'm like, oh God, take me back to Baghdad. That was like
the good old days.
Yeah.
That was relaxing compared to Delhi.
Did you buy any Saddam money?
Yeah.
There's a store that sells all the old bills. It's sick.
I still have it, actually. I found it. I was meaning to give it away. Maybe we'll do like a contest for the pinheads, and you guys can win like a $100 Saddam Hussein note.
It's a great souvenir.
I had some and got it taken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's technically a war crime.
Right.
So they didn't want you to have any like trophies or anything like that. So when they went through our shit, they took a couple things that I wanted to take back. But that's bullshit, because like in World War II, you could have whatever you wanted, bringing back guns, bringing back helmets, bringing back whatever.
Yeah, I
can't bring back a couple $1 bills.
Yeah, I'm sure in World War II they were bringing back like Nazi fingers or something like that.
Everything, yeah.
You can get in trouble for that now.
Scalps,
even.
Yeah.
Like if you buy like some souvenir that's like some kind of military thing, like certain places will like, you'll get in big trouble. I don't specifically know which ones, but I probably should.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful.
And then I think one of my first nights, Baghdad happened to be playing a soccer game, which was awesome. I didn't know like Baghdad Iraq came very close to qualifying for the last World Cup. I think they just missed it by a game. So we went to the stadium, great vibes. It was like almost all dudes in the stands. You do kind of like out in public, you see a lot more males than females in Iraq. I don't know if you had that experience.
Like ultimately, yeah,
definitely.
But the girl in the girl in the Umbro store was like flirting with me though, hardcore. Like I bought some Iraq merch, and she was into me.
Yeah,
for 100%, dude. But for the most part, yeah. Like, but if you're a woman there, like you can dress normal if you want. It's just like weird. Like I remember one of my guides was a woman, and she would dress normal. And at all the checkpoints and stuff, they'd pop in the car. They'd be like, "Where's he from?" They'd be like, "He's American." Show my passport. Then be like, "What about her?" And she's like, "I'm Iraqi." And the guy would be like, "Really?" And she'd be like, "What? You don't think we have pretty girls in Iraq?" And the guy would be like, "I don't know." Dude, it was crazy. I'm like, this is insane.
I remember my first time talking to somebody with a vagina.
Yeah, for real, bro. But yeah, like that vibe is definitely in the air. Like did you go to Babylon?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how there's the like zigzag thing you can jump over? There's like
I was not jumping over any zigzag thing. I saw some zigzag things. What?
Well, it's almost like a labyrinth setup kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, you can like step over it. But this girl was like very that I was with was afraid to do it. She kept hesitating. And some guy yelled like, "You can use me as a bridge to walk over the."
Okay.
Like fairly innocent catcall. A cop heard him do it, and he basically dragged this guy by the ear and made him apologize to her for saying that.
I think that's the least offensive catcall
I've ever heard in my life.
Could use me as a bridge.
Yeah, dude.
It wasn't like you can use me as a toothbrush.
No, not even close. Like it was all over the pants situation.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, anyway. So
And I remember right next to Babylon, they had Saddam Hussein's mansion, which he built like a giant palace near Babylon because he kind of saw himself as the new Nebuchadnezzar, who was like the king of the Babylonian dynasty way back in the day. He was bringing Iraq back to glory.
Shout out the book Ecclesiastes.
Okay.
that's a call. I love that.
And so we got to explore his abandoned mansion. And I guess when USA first invaded, they started using that mansion as one of their headquarters.
I used one of his
Really?
old palaces that his son Uday had.
Where at?
Lake Bahariya is where it was at.
Where's that?
And when I first pull up Lake Bahariya, and so when I first got there, that was the first spot that I went to. And they told us all these different stories because I had a working dog, and like we had just got off this long ass flight doing these hard ass missions out in the hot. And so I was going to let him go swimming in it. And I did let him go. So I was throwing a tennis ball into the water. He was jumping in there. And one of the guys that was like in charge of the base came over and he was like, "Dude, there was like a shit ton of dead bodies in that lake. Like, why is your dog in there?" Like, when the war first started, they cut people's throats open and threw them into that river. Some of the people said that, like, even members of the U.S. the national team in Iraq, like their soccer player that gave up an own goal, some say that he was killed and thrown into that lake.
Jeez. Was this like during like the Iran-Iraq war situation?
Yeah. But lake, I think it says Laka Bahariya. Cam Bahariya, yeah, that's exactly where I was. But yeah, it was the palace there was nice. I might have taken that picture that's on the left. Yeah, but it was this cool spot. But you could go through after a while. You could go through and see different shit inside his palace, and it was eerie, man.
Yeah,
eerie.
Well, was it all still in there, like his stuff?
Yeah, a lot of this stuff there was like this huge, awesome bathtub that I wanted to use because I just thought how sick that would be. Like I used Uday Hussein's bathtub after he was killed. Yeah. Like that would have been tough.
Badass.
Yeah. But that was one of the only spots that had like solid air conditioning too. Like the big wet gators that you could, and it felt so good after being nothing and then going in there. It was awesome.
Because you were there pretty fresh after the invasion. Like,
can you pull up the map of where that is?
Not 2006 and 7.
The invasion started 2003?
Yeah, the invasion was 2003. So I was in the second battle of Fallujah is what I was in.
Well, at least by the time I was there, like every single thing valuable in his mansion had been looted. There were still some nice murals on a few of the walls and some like nice looking pieces of wood attached to the ceilings. But everything else was looted. And I saw some kids like climb over this barrier to get to the second floor. I think they were local Iraqi kids. So I was like, that looks sick. Followed them up there and kept on going up and up. And then eventually I got to the roof, which had a beautiful view of all of the Babylonian ruins, and then got caught by a security guard. And I think that was my first time being like, hold up, I am in Iraq. Like, why am I still fucking around so much?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This could be bad. And like they got on their walkie-talkie, and my guy was on the first floor. So I think he eventually like realized what was going on and talked to the security guards, and they let me go.
Yeah.
I think they asked me to delete all the footage, but I didn't. I was able to fake it out. But then I was like, okay, I gotta like play it a little chiller. I am in Iraq.
Yeah. I was like, when you said you were going, I was legit nervous for you.
Yeah.
Because my experience is just so totally different. Like it was.
How crazy was it during that time that you were there? I know there's like different waves where it was like super violent.
Real bad. Like I was probably the worst time.
You were getting shot at regularly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's so crazy.
I was in. I mean, I know exactly, which is weird because of like award write-ups. 113 firefights, like so it was a ton, like a lot.
Like psychologically, how do you like get pumped up to go do that?
I mean, honestly, it is there. A lot of movies are really accurate as far as that. It's almost like to me, I always equated it, and I actually said it to one of my bosses, the reason why I wanted to go. When I first went, I had been in the Marine Corps for like 3.5, 4 years. And basically every day you're training for war. And I eventually started looking at it like a football game, like where you don't want to go to practice every day and not go play in a game.
You were like ready to use your skills.
I wanted to go play in a game. And after a while, it just becomes like pretty commonplace, like going out and getting shot at and shooting at people, where you have to kind of remind yourself, this is serious. Like, this is like a very important thing that we're doing right now, where there's a common phrase, complacency kills. So you just kind of get used to what's going on. Things slow down for you, and you just feel if it almost becomes like an everyday thing, like where it's no different than getting up and brushing your teeth. You're just going outside and you might get shot at today. When
I'm playing a football game, though, sometimes I need to get knocked on my ass before I start to get actually into the game. But when you're in like a war, a combat scenario, you can't really afford to get knocked on your ass first.
No, I would say that's pretty accurate too, because there's certain things that happen, at least for me. I can only speak from my experience. Like with the first time that I rolled out, like, so you do all this training where you go get in Humvees, and then the first time that you leave like the gates of like a U.S. military base in Iraq, and you're actually out in public and you're looking for IEDs, you're doing all that stuff, the feeling is just so different. It has to feel like what it's like the first time you get hit. And then the first time you hear bullets start coming at you, or you start hearing like bombs exploding around you, then it's like, oh shit, now it's real. Let's lock in. So I imagine it is kind of like getting hit on your first play, where it really makes you focus.
Yeah. Jesus. Do you ever did you ever see somebody's face as you killed them?
Not their face. I didn't see their face. I did see and made positive identification on the guy who shot me and shot back.
Damn.
So that was pretty sweet.
But you got him?
The guy who shot you killed?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Did not know that.
That's just like a good old-fashioned duel, bro.
Well, I can't say for sure that I killed him. He got shot a bunch at the time, but I was one of the trigger pullers.
Okay, you had a confirmed hit.
When you get shot, what are you like, am I gonna fucking die?
So for me, I think it's different for everybody depending on where you got hit. So I was in a house and there was all kinds of gunfire that was going on around.
It's like an urban warfare situation.
Mm-hmm. So we had just taken a house, and I think one of the most fucked up things that we do that we don't really talk about is that, like in an area like Fallujah, for example, we would look at different, like an aerial image of Fallujah, and identify different targets that we had, like who was in the area, where we thought this person was. And then we would look for a house that was around that area that had good eyes on, where you could have good visibility to the area that you actually wanted to see. And then we would go and kick people out of their house. Like, it'd just be dudes like me that are strapped to the nines.
Just like the movies.
Yeah.
Like a woman.
You knock on the door, get out. And they would have to get out, and they would leave, and you would take that spot. So one night I had swept, making sure there was no bombs, and we finally got to a house. I was exhausted, man, worked my ass off. And I finally had laid down, and as soon as I was going to go to sleep on the first sleep shift after working all night, the whole place basically exploded. Mortar rounds started hitting, and then there was machine gun fire all around, and I stood up, and I was get to the roof. So I was going to the roof, and as soon as I stood up, I got turned around, and I thought that I had been hit by a brick. I thought a brick or piece of mud from the house hit me, and then I looked down. I could see the hole in my arm, and I was like, "Fuck me!"
Oh my god, dude!
And so the first things that go to your mind is am I going to die? How bad is this? So I tied a hasty tourniquet to my arm to slow the blood flow down, not completely stop it, but slow it down a lot, because I wasn't sure how much I was going to bleed. And then I had to go to the roof and make sure that, because there was only 6 or 7 of us in the house at the time, and we were fighting a lot, 30. And
wait, what does that mean?
6 of us were fighting against 30 people.
Oh, Jesus.
And they all had machine guns or submachine guns. It was fucking crazy.
And then a helicopter picked you up on the roof?
No, so
Where'd you get that from?
That's what I see in the movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that why they went to the roof? It's like, you got to get to the roof.
Yeah, every episode of Lioness,
So
a fucking
we-
helicopter shows up and saves the day.
So we went, and the mortars were flying, and we eventually killed everybody.
Bro.
Well, we killed most of them, and there's still some mortar rounds that are flying in and hitting. And every time a mortar round hits, you have to wait like 5 or 10 minutes, whatever the area's like operating procedures are, before a helicopter can come. So every time one would hit, be like, fuck, start the timer over again.
Oh, no.
And the corpsman that was with me wanted to give me morphine, and I knew that if they gave me morphine, you'd basically have to take me out on a stretcher. And so I denied it. I was like, no, I don't want it. So I didn't have morphine for like an hour and a half after I got shot.
And are you checking to make sure you're not hit elsewhere?
No, I was pretty sure that I had only got hit in the one spot. My dog was going fucking ballistic, dude. Like, everybody that was trying to get near me, he was like losing it. And it was awesome to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I didn't ever think that I was going to die. I did think that I was going to lose my arm.
Wow.
For sure.
Wait, but say if your fellow soldiers are trying to save your life and the dog is just warding them off.
I told him
like a code word?
if he wouldn't have, like, I had good control of him verbally. Yeah. I think if I would have been knocked unconscious, I would have died.
Because the dog would have been like, you're not getting near this
He would
guy?
have stood on me like king of the mountain, like, touch him, bitch, I fucking dare
Is
you.
he a German Shepherd?
Yeah.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah, he wouldn't have let anybody. But I had like a toy, and I had told him before, like, if something happens to me, there's a toy in my bag, grab it out of my bag.
Say the word treat and it'll calm down.
Or like I told him that, and then the other thing, I was trying to think of what I actually did tell him. I told him, wrap your arm with some clothes, as much clothes as you can, and one of you let him bite you. So, and then pull him away and have him on a leash.
Wow.
Okay.
So,
Dude, that's fucking nuts, dude.
yeah.
Well,
It's crazy. So that was my experience. What was the bazaars like?
thanks for paving the way for us to be able to go dick around.
The bazaars, I mean, one of my first impressions was walking the streets, not a lot of foreign tourists. People would just be like, welcome to Iraq, welcome to Iraq. Like, and then if they found out we were American, they would become even happier just to see that, like, an American would come here as a tourist.
Mm-hmm.
American, what is your YouTube?
Yeah, yes.
And then telling you every shit they've seen. Do you like a blacklist? Yes, I love that show.
I mean, that was one of my favorite aspects of being there, was the bazaars to get the movies. Yeah. I don't know how they did it, but I had, for my daughter when I came back, I had the DVDs that they would sell at the bazaar. One of them had like basically every single Disney movie ever made, and it was compressed on 5 DVDs.
No way.
I don't know how they did it, but it was
Emulator.
amazing. And they would just play back to back to back. So as a hungover single dad, it was the best.
Man,
Do you still have that?
No, I wish.
Damn.
Dude,
Now it's just
yeah.
Netflix.
Did your guides pick you up from the airport?
Yes.
Okay, so
that was a must for
it's
me.
huge. So, dude, same. Like, so mine did not.
Okay.
So it was amazing to experience that, because I'm like, why aren't they here? They were like, oh, we got stuck doing like a TV interview like up north. We're not going to make it. So like, are you good for today? And then like our other guy will come meet you. I hate when they do the bait and switch on you, because it's like, I don't want any surprises. Like, I'm in a place where like I don't know much about it, and it like freaks me out a little. So I want you to be here. They weren't. So basically, we took a taxi to where we needed to go, and then we were by ourselves for the night. So we get to this hotel. It was fine. The fucking guy working the hotel desk was like, "You like Will Smith?" And he's just showing me Will Smith. I'm like, dude, hilarious. Puts me at ease to some degree. But then we're going to go to dinner. So we take a taxi from the hotel, and then there's like a number we're supposed to call to get a taxi to go back. So going out just like feels weird, but it's fine. It's no big deal. We go to the restaurant. We're just kind of like pointing at pictures, and everybody's nice and fine, whatever. So to go back to the hotel, we are trying to hail a cab, because for whatever reason, my phone isn't working. A random car stops and is like... And I'm like, is this guy even a cab? We get in the car. The dude's like...
Get in the car.
We get in the car. The dude's like super sketchy looking too. And like, I show him a picture of where we're going. And then he just goes, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, New York. He goes, ah. Then we arrive at the hotel. I'm like, how much should I owe you? He's like, no. Free. Please. Welcome. And bro, that was like such a nice moment. And then from then on, I never felt weird. The guy showed up the next morning, and I did not have a single sketchy moment the rest of the trip. Everybody was so nice. And it was just like a really amazing experience. You know what I mean?
And I think like what happened to you would happen 9 out of 10 times, but like Iraq's one of the few places where I'm just like not getting in a random person's car, regardless. Like I gotta know who it is. It's gotta be.
Yeah. I don't know.
But hey, no, I mean,
it worked out. But
no,
yeah. But yes, I agree. Now, as I hear myself say that, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But dude, in Saddam's palace, I went upstairs too, but the dude that we were with paid one of the guys, so they let us go up.
Okay.
And there was like all these loose pieces of chandelier on the floor, and I picked it up, and he's like, "You can keep it." I just have this fucking piece of the chandelier.
That's pretty sick.
That's sick, yeah.
He had a dope pool in the back of that palace.
It was crazy.
Like overlooking the Euphrates or something.
Yeah.
Not filled at the moment, but it was sick. We can throw a photo of it in here.
Full rager.
Yeah, I
situation.
mean, honestly, the closest I came to dying in Iraq was due to a margarita. Iraq's not the place where you want to get a margarita.
It was terrible.
So this is when we had already been in the country for 3 days. So we were starting to get a little cocky, and we were like, you know what? I think we're ready to go out without our guide. We had the night off, and I just looked up bar on Google Maps, and it was one spot that came up was taco restaurant and bar. And it was a 10-minute walk from our hotel. So it was like, that's where we're going.
Hilarious.
We showed up. The tacos were actually phenomenal.
Good food over there.
Good food. No food poisoning from the tacos. I think I even got like shrimp tacos.
I think it's the best tasting tomatoes I've ever had. We're in Iraq.
And some of the best bread.
Really,
And they do a
food.
really good pistachio dessert. But yeah, I was at a Mexican restaurant, and I think it was even Tuesday. So it was like Taco Tuesday. We got to get a margarita. And when I ordered the margarita, the expression on the bartender's face was not reassuring. He was just like, okay, I guess. But he was like, this is not what you want.
Pained over a three ingredient drink.
He said, this is not what you wanted to order, but I guess I'll make it. I think it's because he knew he did not have the ingredients to make a margarita. So he pretty much just took like bathtub vodka
Yeah.
and like mixed it
Moonshine.
with some lemon juice and was like, here's your margarita. Served it in a martini glass. And we're sipping it, and I'm almost done with it. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I feel like way drunker than I should right now. But whatever. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I guess like, we won't have to spend as much money tonight. And then we had a few more beers, and we were just completely bombed. And we walked to like one of their hotel bars, met some dudes from China that were there for work. We like tried to get them in the vlog we were doing. They were like, this is like super shady. No way. You're not putting me on camera, because I don't know what the fuck they were doing in Iraq.
Yeah, right.
But the next morning we wake up. I like have one of the worst hangovers I've ever had. And my camera guy, John Kelly, he can't even get out of bed. Just like violently puking. And it was from the fake alcohol. I used to drink a lot of fake alcohol my first year in China, so I'm very familiar with it. But fake
statement.
What do you mean it's fake alcohol? Like
Very
NA?
familiar with it.
Is NA?
No, it's real. It's like rubbing alcohol. What is fake alcohol?
Fake can't be the
Isopropyl.
terminology.
No, it is fake alcohol. They learn, so they call it fake alcohol because they'll like make some sort of booze, and then they'll fill up their booze bottles with it. So you think you're drinking Absolute, you think you're drinking Jose Cuervo, but it's this fake shit that's
Finlandia. Nope.
unsafe alcohol. Yeah, so fake criminals produce counterfeit alcohol. So yeah,
Okay.
counterfeit means fake.
Yeah.
Criminals.
Which often contains substances such as antifreeze, nail polish remover, and even paint stripper.
That's probably why you felt
Yeah.
bad.
Fake alcohol can cause blindness, organ failure, and can even lead to death. But it does get you drunk. So
Okay.
it's not fake in that sense.
Yeah.
You will get a buzz,
Okay.
but you may wake up blind.
Jesus Christ.
Well, you win some, lose some.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And we had like a long day of filming planned. John Kelly was not able to get out of bed until about 6 p.m.
Wow.
And then my first time solo in Iraq was that morning, because I was like, dude, like I should probably try to find a pharmacy. And so I just went out for a walk. The first 10 minutes of the walk, I was just wearing my headphones, walking the streets of Iraq alone. That probably makes you cringe. I think like,
Yes, dude. Yes, it does. Well, no, I did too. I wore them. That's how I kept calm. As I had a Zune, and I would use my Zune wire up through my gear and put it in. And when I was like walking in the road looking for bombs, I would listen to Frank Sinatra.
Oh,
That's
now
wild.
if you're,
I wish I had like a soundtrack or like a video, like My Way. Sending the Clowns was my favorite to do.
now is that like, are you allowed to do that in the military, or did you have to hide that from your commanding
I
officer?
hit it big time. And I only could because I wore like a bone phone where the vibration goes through your head and like your ear behind where there's no actual sound. I wore that on my left ear, and then in my right ear, I listened to music.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You drive around on those MRAP things?
I didn't do MRAPs. I didn't get to walk a lot, honestly, because I had the dog. But if I did, it was in like a super cramped Humvee, which always sucked because your dog is like right there and there's no room anyway. And I always felt bad for the dudes that were the machine gunners, like in through the turret, that had my like vicious ass dog right below. And we do a lot of training to make sure that you go through every scenario. We never did, and I don't know why, shooting a machine gun directly on top of your dog while there's hot brass casings of
How
50
did you guys
calibers.
forget, dude, to do that?
And
Oh, shit.
I told him, I was like, I'll do everything I can, but I can't guarantee everything's going to go great in this situation.
Yeah.
Sick that you were the dog guy. There's always a dog guy in the shows.
Yeah, it was the best because people always like you because you bring your dog around.
Hey, buddy.
And after a while, if I can like chill him out, then he was totally cool playing everybody. So we'd be playing cards or whatever in a house, and Psych is just like running around being
nice.
like a normal dog. That was cool.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I eventually found a pharmacy and then just looked up the Arabic word for nauseous, I think, and just showed it to him. Got some pills, went back to the hotel. It's all good.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Well done.
yeah, I do like, I was listening to some dude on a podcast and he was this like, kind of like a David Goggins type of dude, just,
The worst.
and he was like, he like lives in Ohio and he was like, dude, I will never walk down the street while listening to headphones. You always have to be aware of your surroundings.
The biggest losers on the planet.
Yeah.
Like dudes that are so concerned about being alpha guys, the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
Dude, insane. What else did you do on your like itinerary?
I think an experience we shared is, did you spend a night with the Marsh Arabs?
Yes.
Okay. I think for me, that was the highlight of my whole trip.
Interesting. Cool. I loved it too. But
Okay.
I like camped though. Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I hated that. I hated camp. I hate camping.
So so Marsh Arabs are a group of Arabs that have lived in the marshes of Mesopotamia for thousands of years.
That
But
was my favorite part of your series too, by the way.
yeah,
that part.
No, that was an awesome experience. But Saddam Hussein was not cool with the Marsh Arabs because I don't know. At one point, they like revolted against his rule. So then he retaliated by just draining the swamps. And I think displaced most of them. But in the last 10 years, the Marsh Arabs are coming back. And they live on these islands in the middle of the marsh. They make their homes out of the reeds of the marsh. And we just got to stay in one of their reed huts for the night.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the hut, I went to the hut. The reason why we didn't stay in the hut, our guide goes, we can stay in the hut, but let me show you the bugs that are in the hut.
Okay.
And then when he showed me this bug, I was like, I'm not sleeping in that. Yes, I'm gonna find it and show you guys. It is truly alarming. It looks like the Starship Troopers bug.
It
Like
does.
the aliens, dude. This thing is fucking
Holy shit.
terrifying. And there's like if you swipe to the left, there's a photo of its face.
Do they
You
bite?
see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think they do. I was like, I'm not on that.
Yeah.
Put me in a tent.
Are those water bugs?
Oh yeah, those are common, dude.
Those things are crazy.
Yeah, there's a guy that in the Humvee, he got one that went in his the back of his gear, and they bite hard as shit.
Ooh.
He was freaking out, didn't know what it was inside. We had to pull over to the side of the road, get all of his shit off, and there was 3 of those fuckers inside the Humvee.
Oh my god.
Yeah, those are really bad. And the wolf spiders that are there, did you see any huge wolf
No,
spiders?
but I've seen them and they're fucked up.
They're like as big as your hand. They're enormous.
I've seen photos of those.
And
One of
those
the-
bite too, right?
One of the guys I was with got bit on the head, and he has a patch that's probably tennis ball size on the back of his head that's nothing but gray hair. Everywhere else on his head is brown still.
Rasheed Wallace.
And then he has that one spot in the back of his head from who got bit. They had to like dig out the pus and shit with like a knife. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're poisonous?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus.
they'll turn your hair gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
But it's a cool story why you got that patch. Well, I was
yeah.
That's kind of like
spider.
I got bit by
I feel like if you're walking with a limp and you're like, yeah, I got bit by a shark, that's gonna like make girls swoon. If you have like a gray patch of hair, 'cause you're like, I got bit by a wolf spider, like, man, that's disgusting. Dude.
yeah.
Get away from me.
But wolf spider at
gross.
war. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That was a really cool experience though. It was like so peaceful, beautiful, like
Yeah, and we were just like hanging out with all their kids around the fire. And there's something so nice about not having electricity and just like when the fire goes out, all right, you're going to bed.
The stars must have been crazy too.
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
And then in the
Did
morning,
you meet the
like,
OG guy? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Yeah, I met his son only.
okay. Yeah.
He like wasn't. I saw him, but like this guy's like famous. He's in like every vlog.
Yes.
But his son is like hot, dude. His son was like a hot dude. I was like, this dude's fucks, dude. I mean, probably not literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe just one woman.
No, I mean, hey, I had
Probably several.
Maybe.
I had a handsome Iraqi guide as well.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I got to meet up with him again though. He came to the World Cup in Qatar.
Oh, sick.
And he remembered that I loved vape, so he brought me a vape
No way.
from Iraq
No way.
to the World Cup. I was like,
That's so amazing.
thank you, dude.
What are the best cigarettes you had in Iraq?
The Iraq cigarettes, I found them to be super weak
They have
Yeah.
like the little
compared to
ones.
China. Yeah, very weak.
Miami's?
Miami's, I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
that was my go-to.
I may have
Yeah.
been smoking that. But it was like that soccer game I was telling you about. I mean, I'm used to going to soccer games and drinking beers. There were little kids walking around with pots of coffee. So I had about like 5 coffees and 20 cigarettes. I was just like wired by the end of that game. Yeah.
Hell
It's
yeah.
like, God damn, I need a beer to take the edge off. Yeah, I mean, there is like one area of Baghdad where there's like liquor store,
Really?
liquor
I didn't
store.
go there. I didn't go to that.
And then the rest of the city you won't find it. But that's a big difference compared to Qatar or Saudi Arabia, where you're not going to find just a liquor store.
Right.
Well, they
Interesting.
opened it up in Baghdad originally in the green zones, like where
Interesting.
American troops could go. And I think the restaurants really discovered like how much money they could make just by serving drinks, and it opened it up for a lot of different areas. But they were very against it first, and Americans like eventually put it in like the status of forces agreements where we could have alcohol.
Yeah. There is kind of like, I noticed a kind of like high class in Iraq or an upper class there. When we were leaving the taco restaurant, it like turned into this really classy lounge, and they had someone start playing live music, and like all of these very well-dressed Iraqi couples came in, and it was almost like a nightclub of sorts for the locals.
Totally. There's definitely very bougie elements throughout my time in Baghdad, at least like really fancy coffee shops, and like where you could have been in Sweden. You know what I mean? It was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is cool to see those like documentaries now that come up where people are going and how much it is advanced and like how much it's gotten nicer after being completely destroyed for
Totally.
years.
Yeah, they have like a modern mall. There's like all this cool shit.
The malls, and this is the case in a lot of countries, though. They'll be like, they're considered a hotspot for terrorist activities. So to get into the malls, you have to go through like very intense security, almost like you're boarding a plane. But once you're in, these malls are incredible. Like,
Right. There's Burger King and shit. And fucking
yeah,
movie
and
theaters.
the mall I had, it had these little like dinosaurs for kids, and you could hop on the dinosaur, and then the dinosaur would just move. And it wasn't like one of those stationary things you'll see outside of a
You put like a
The ones that
quarter
do
in it and
this?
it goes
yeah,
around.
it wasn't one of those. This was just like an actual dinosaur that would just move around the mall. I was
Like
like,
a Waymo dinosaur.
we don't have those in the U.S.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and a little like train in the mall courtyard that would go around in
I
circles.
saw that. Yeah.
Very nice malls. Back to the marshes. The following morning, then did you guys go through like a cruise through all of it and stuff?
Super cool.
Yeah, we did this like fish barbecue on an island.
Yeah. Same. It's amazing.
Like very tasty fish.
Amazing fish.
It was
yeah.
it was the sauce. He made some sort of black sauce that he just mopped all over it. That was delicious. And then we weren't the only tour guides out there. There were some like local Iraqis just going for like a cruise through the marsh.
Cool.
They pulled up to the same island and were just like broing out with us. they got into some sort of like a freestyle battle, I would call it. But it's like a singing battle.
Hilarious.
So we were with the OG Marsh guy with the long white beard. He sings, and then the other guy, they're like, oh, we have a guy who can sing. So he would drop one line, then the other guy would drop another line, and they would just go back and forth until the other guy just got exhausted or couldn't like hit the same notes.
Sick.
A little battle rapping, but
That's
just with
sick.
ballads.
Yeah.
Ballad rapping. Yeah.
And then the other guy would be like, "Woo." Yeah. It was fun to watch, and our guy kicked his ass.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
OG.
He'd been doing it for longer. It was not his first battle.
That was one of the hardest I laugh in your Bald Stool series was Eddie explaining the call to prayers in Istanbul.
I think that was like the highlight for me too.
And he is like, the American mind can't comprehend this
He
at
was like-
6:15.
He had no idea what the call to prayer was, and we were in
Hilarious.
Turkey, and he was like, "Dude, they're like singing at 6 a.m.
Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful.
He's like, "But it's not like loving this club. It's like they're singing scripture. I don't know." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the call to prayer, 5 times a day."
Hilarious, dude. So, did you go to any of the like religious like Karbala or Najaf or anything?
I did not.
I did not go to Najaf, but Karbala was like was a highlight for me.
And that's one of the most religious like cities for a certain sect of Islam.
It's a top 3 like Shia holy site. One of the Imam, I don't want to say the wrong one. It's not Imam Hussein, 'cause I think he was in Najaf. The other somebody else. So it's like I forget what the first one is, but it's like one of the top ones. And anyway, people have pilgrimages there, and it's like Disney World for religion, dude. It's like super like bright. Everybody like the hotel rooms have like 4 beds in them in one room because like you bring your whole fucking family.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like really kind of like really bright and colorful in a way that you might argue is like over the top, but I thought it was amazing. It was like, and there's people cleaning it constantly, and it was just 24 hours a day. And I thought that was like a pretty cool cultural experience that I recommend to anybody who goes over there.
After Baghdad, did you go to the north at all?
A
Or
little bit. I went to Samara,
okay,
which I know like saw a little action for sure in your time, and that was like the militias were controlling that whole area, so it was like a different vibe. And they would tell us they're like, these guys are like not as chill as the Iraqi soldiers. Like the Iraqi soldiers will like you. These guys are just gonna like not be, but probably not be super friendly to you most of the time, which was like kind of true. And then they take your passport before you go into the city, which is also not ideal, but they like tell you that that's going to happen. But the Samara like minaret or whatever is a really like special UNESCO site and stuff. So that was cool to do. But I want to go back, I think, this year maybe and go to like do full northern Iraq, like Mosul.
I want to go too.
Erbil.
Yeah, dude.
I really
Yeah,
want to go.
Kurdistan.
Yeah,
I almost did a couple years ago. There was a USO tour, and the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff had invited me to go to Afghanistan and Iraq.
No way.
And I really wanted to do it. And I was like, it was going to be either 3 or 4 week tour. And
No, what does that tour entail? Like you're doing like performing?
yeah,
like-
so I would go like do meet and greets
Cool,
and,
cool.
and stuff like that. But I was going to go, and then it was over Christmas, and it was like my kids' like 4th Christmas, I think, which is a pretty major one, like one
Totally.
of the first really know what's going on.
yeah. Sorry, Daddy had to go back to Iraq.
Right, and I was like, I already missed this Christmas once. I'm not doing it for the
Yeah.
next kid too. But I would love to go back now. One of my buddies, they do that pretty often for dudes that, not pretty often, but sometimes for guys that were combat wounded, they'll bring you back to the spot that you got wounded at so you can leave on your terms. Which
That's
is
wild.
Yeah, there's a dude named Kyle Carpenter who jumped on a grenade and was awarded the Medal of Honor for it. Survived, was in the hospital for like 2.5 years, 3 years.
Wow.
Like 100-something surgeries on his face. Well, he jumped on that grenade in Afghanistan, and then like 6 years later went back and stood on the same stairs that he jumped on the grenade was on and left.
My God.
It's crazy,
That's
man.
crazy.
But I think it would be fun to go see.
Closure.
Yeah, closure and see, because honestly, one of the worst parts about coming back is how you view people. I know it was a thing that Vietnam veterans struggled with too, like looking at somebody who's from Vietnam and not associating that with war.
Okay.
Like when I first came back, that was a big struggle for me. Anybody that was dressed like very traditional Islamic area, I was like very hesitant, and through a lot of therapy, I've gotten over that, but I want to go now not with a gun and just check things out and see from what I've heard, some of the nicest people on the planet.
Yeah, man.
You mentioned Kyle Carpenter. I was like, that name sounds familiar. I think he either went on a date with my wife or like asked her on a date way back in the day.
University of South Carolina, right?
She went to Clemson.
She went to,
but somehow they met or something like that.
Florence area.
I don't know,
crazy.
but
Yeah.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. He's a coxman.
Yeah. Now she's married to a loser, not a war hero.
Oh man, that's so funny.
But
Yeah,
when
it was a good
like
trip.
when you guys were in Iraq, like did any of you make it up to Erbil, which is the capital of Iraqi Kurdistan?
No.
Okay, because they almost operate as their own country. I remember
They do.
I didn't have to get the same visa if I wanted to just go to Erbil that I did if I wanted to go to Baghdad.
I don't think that's been. I don't think that was around then. Was it?
Well, like Erbil has always been around. It's like a super ancient city, but I don't think Iraqi Kurdistan was like its
Yeah,
own
Kurdistan
thing.
wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
I don't think. That was like what, 2013? Kurdistan?
Sounds about right.
Well, it still isn't technically like official though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
no,
don't
it's
know.
still officially part of Iraq, but there are different like regulations and restrictions. And if you go to Erbil, you'll just see it's a lot more westernized, I guess, compared to the rest of Iraq.
Suleimania,
I love
too.
Kurds. Those dudes are fucking wild as hell.
Really?
Some of the bravest fuckers I've ever met, man. There's-
Peshmerga.
Yeah, there's a dude. His name is, quote, Kyle is what his
Sick.
name was for us. And he had been shot like 7 or 8 times.
Oh my God.
And just did not give a fuck. And we were coming around this little area, and it was me and 3 or 4 other dudes. And there's these illumination rounds that they'll shoot off from artillery that just light up the sky. It basically puts like stadium style lights over a whole city. They're not supposed to do it whenever like guys like me were around, because we want it to be dark, but they did it over the area where they normally did, but they weren't supposed to do it. And so people could see us, like the bad guys that were in the area could see us. And one guy saw us and picked up a cell phone, which is how they were like remote detonating IEDs. Kyle dropped his weapon like right by us and just sprinted at this guy and like fucking kicked him right in the chest, like while he was sitting down. And he was like, "Why did you touch your cell phone?" And he comes back and he was like, he was just getting a call. Like, this guy's fucking lunatic, man.
Fair game, dude.
And like the guy that was in charge, he's like, "You can't just go around kicking everybody in the chest." It's like, he had a cell phone. Would you rather me say sorry or die? Like, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Oh man.
Did you like ever like guys you were out there with like lose people and shit like in a firefight situation?
Oh yeah, lots.
Crazy, man. It's fucked up.
The closest I came to a firefight there was leaving the soccer game. They started letting off a bunch of fireworks.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say AK rounds.
No. But that was.
But they do that as well,
Yeah.
and act like they don't come down. They come down somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. If you ever need to fire a warning shot to scare someone away, you want to shoot that into the ground.
Into the ground. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I don't recommend it either way. But
Yeah.
What's the process when you guys are in, a battle and then you lose people and then you come back to the base or whatever? Like, what's the protocol for that between then and like things going, quote, back to normal?
It kind of depends on the situation, on how it happens. So like for us, when somebody would be killed, if we were like in a heavy populated area, then we would have like a quick reaction force come with like almost like a truck that has a bed that you can lay somebody respectfully there. But if you were out, sometimes it would be like 6 or 7 of us out. You would do whatever you needed to do to get their bodies back, like put them on top of you, do whatever you need to do. But the normal process whenever you come back is they would close off communication, like outside communication to the base. And then, so if somebody died, like on Camp Fallujah, like that was attached to Camp Fallujah, every single phone that was attached to Camp Fallujah would be shut down until that person's family was notified. And then once they're notified, then you could start to talk, which gets back to spouses and everything, because they know, like, you're normally going to call at this time or at this time. And if you don't, sometimes it could be 2 or 3 days that they would cut off communication. And then your family don't know, is it you? Is it somebody else? Like, so it's pretty shitty, you know?
Yeah. Jesus. It's insane.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Have you been following Iraq recently? Like, how is it doing politically at the moment?
No, I stopped doing that for my mental health. Stop watching. Like, when I think, and honestly, I was such a dickhead to you. Like, when you...
I love that we haven't talked about this yet.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Chaps and I had beef, dude.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that, actually.
Yeah.
But not like about Iraq, about
Afghanistan. It like wasn't ultimately a big deal. You literally texted me like at the end of the day.
No, and that's so normally. So for those that are listening or watching, so you came back from Afghanistan and you wrote this blog.
The only blog that I wrote when I worked at Barstool, by the way.
Yeah, he wrote this blog.
Your first and last.
My first and last blog.
And it was basically just talking about your experience, right?
Like, it was basically talking about my experience meeting the Taliban. I forget exactly what the tone was, but I definitely was not being like, they're chill. I don't know. I forget what I was saying, but like it turned into, and then you wrote like a reply.
And I was maybe the biggest dickhead I've ever been post like seriously, the post Marine me, the biggest dick I ever have been. And I think it was because it was so much was happening at that time in Afghanistan. Like there was all kinds of shit. Kate and I had just done this like deep dive into what was happening, and it was still horrible. And then I saw something that I didn't view as like a condemnation of these people that at the time still I view as like the worst fuckers on the planet. And I took out like American foreign policy on you. Like, right. And I was like, this motherfucker. Well, and it was so bad. It's the only blog I've ever taken down. Like that I did it myself.
I appreciate that.
I think your blog is still up because I just found it.
Oh, well, is it?
Wait, so
you got to read mine first, though.
Yeah, so your blog was called "Being Detained by the Taliban Sucks. I Know from Experience."
Yes,
right? Does that sound right? And then,
which is like not immediately. That's like not a great.
I think that is fine. But then, so the name
praising them and all.
Chaps's blog was called. Quotation mark, actually the Taliban isn't that bad, quotation mark, was a blog that was published today, and that's moronic.
I did not say that in the article.
Was that?
Or in the blog.
Was that not a line from the blog?
What is
not
this?
A quote?
I don't remember what. I just remember being insanely triggered really, really fast. Read the blog, Donnie. Read what he said first. Do you still have it?
I think you posted a screenshot. You wouldn't even link his blog. Oh, no. Okay.
Keep those clicks away from him, too.
Yeah. So, all right. I'll do a speed run of his blog. Yesterday, over 200 people sent me the story about 24-year-old Miles Routledge, YouTube danger vlogger who's being held captive by the Taliban. I sincerely hope he's okay. I know how scary being held by the Taliban can be since it happened to me a couple months ago. Fortunately, I was released after only a few hours. You can listen to the whole story here. I also make videos in dangerous places, with the goal being to show the softer side. As for Miles, he seems to be a bit more adventurous than I am. He has visited Afghanistan many times and was actually airlifted out during the fall of Kabul. On his most recent trip, he was detained and has been held captive since the beginning of the year. An important detail, in my opinion, is that when the Taliban picked him up, he supposedly had a gun. He also had a permit for the gun. But this, to me, is one of the reasons Afghanistan can be so stressful, permit or not. It can all depend on which talib you run into that day. Even if someone arrests you and they're wrong for doing so, it can take many hours or even days for their supervisor to arrive and tell them that it's all good. In this case, it appears that Routledge is being held as a foreign spy until further review. The other two current detainees are employees of the NGO, the Presidium Network. They were recently permitted to have video calls with their family where they shared that they're being treated fairly.
With every sentence, it gets worse than for me.
So far, so good for me.
So far, great. It's wonderful.
Unfortunately, Routledge did not participate in these calls. Unfortunately, Routledge did not participate in these calls, and we're not quite sure where he is. It doesn't surprise me that the other two reported being treated fairly. The Taliban, while we don't agree with most of their policies or actions, are actually quite hospitable to foreigners.
There we go.
Hospitable to foreigners.
That was the worst thing you said.
Yeah, fair. But like, I didn't say I am not. I think the Taliban are terrible. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
I
Yeah. I was the biggest dickhead in the world. My response was like, if we did, like, let's say there was 3 U.S. Marines shot, I would have just done Hiroshima. Like, it was, my response was not in, like, proportion whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah.
I recognized it pretty quick.
Dude, you literally texted me and we're like, dude, I'm sorry, that was insane. And then it was just like over. It was fine.
Yeah, I like text France and I was like, I was a pretty big dickhead to your guy. Can I have his number?
Yeah, because you go on to say just Afghanistan is known for being a hospitable place in general. I was invited over for dinner 4 to 5 times a day, every day,
not by the
Taliban and civilians alike.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like a blanket statement for the Middle East. I think like Middle Easterners are very hospitable.
Yeah, right.
So it's just like you guys were obviously both there under completely different circumstances. Well, yeah, you were never in Afghanistan, but yeah.
No, yeah. And I think I don't really have an excuse. I was just a fucking dick.
You're fine.
And I you know, the worst part about it, and we've squashed it obviously, and like hang out here and like get along good. I think the worst part is that me is like the exact version of me that I don't want to be. Like that, like firing off that, gatekeeping like other people's experiences, and the almost like that was self-aggrandizement in its purest form, as far as like me on the veteran scale.
Okay, well, I guess can we consider the beef squashed?
Oh, yeah,
dude,
absolutely.
The beef has been squashed. There's no beef.
Yeah.
But so what happened to me that night, like basically the Taliban would stop us a lot, and what would end up happening is most of the time they would be, first of all, like very hostile, which by the way, I don't know that if in good faith, I could go make that video right now, because what would end up happening is the Taliban would want to be in the video and they'd like inevitably be like showing, like trying to be cool and shit. And like, I don't want to make that video. I don't want to make a video that makes the Taliban look good. My whole story in the video is a cartoon. I didn't film any shit with the Taliban, and they were not like the way they are with tourism now then. So like, to me, that was like a moral important thing, because they are operating in like hundreds of years ago with the way that they are treating the people of their country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like with women and with bullshit and just being so stubborn. There's no aid. They like, the people are suffering because of them.
Yeah, I think it went worse like after what happened, the withdrawal. And I think the withdrawal is one of the biggest American tragedies of the last 50 years, the way that we treated the people that helped us there, the way that we got out. I think it was despicable what happened, and then how the Taliban came in. And I think that's the reason why, to get back to your original question of why I don't keep up, like when Fallujah fell again, it was like gut-wrenching, probably emotionally, except for things that have happened to my family, the most painful thing I've ever gone through, like watching what happened. Because
like in the teens, like in 2010, because that was crazy violent time, right? Power vacuum,
and once we lost Fallujah again, and Fallujah fell again, and Camp Fallujah shut down because it went so poorly. Like, you look at all the people that you did put on planes to go back home to see their family or to get buried by their families, and you were like, what the fuck was this worth? Because you didn't have, like, there was never anything that was going to justify the war that happened, but you always had, like, for me, I always hung my hat on, well, at least little girls can go to school in Iraq now and Fallujah now. They shut that shit down. Then the same thing happened in Afghanistan. At least little girls can go to school. That's gone. Yeah. Like, all the good things that you could say that some type of democracy like helps, once that was gone, it was like everything was in vain. So like the longest war in American history, and 2 different fronts, 2 different theaters, all of it was in vain.
And like, you just saw firsthand like all of the loss and hardship that it took to take Fallujah back the first time. That when it fell again, you're like, oh shit, I know people who lost their lives trying to take it the first time.
Totally.
Yeah, like painted the sand with my own blood, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're, and then to know what they're going through, and like probably the ones that spoke English well, that were going to school and doing things that we would consider like normal human existence, they were the ones that got it the worst. Like
Totally.
the brunt of it, the worst. Like what we did to our allies is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Dude, brutal, man. But yeah, I mean, and in Afghanistan, at least, like, not to like virtue signal, but I did end up having like a very positive outcome in some capacity of like, I feel like I made like a little bit of a positive impact. We started like this school system that like took off, and like every time the tour guides would get people, they would take them there and everybody would donate. So they started raising so much money that they started building them in a bunch of other different places. That has now since like transitioned into something else. So like kind of like that school got absorbed by the other like local school, and now like we're building this library, and that's like been a really great thing. And like, so I
don't think that's virtue signaling at all. I think pointing out any positives in an area that is completely devoid of light is not a bad thing at all.
well, thank you. But I was happy that like it feels shitty sometimes to go to a place because what I prefer to do is to go to a place that's like on the comeback. Iraq felt like that. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can be like, oh, isn't it great that it's going well for everybody? Great. Afghanistan did not feel that way. So it felt weird to be like, oh, it's so nice. Everybody's so great. And then like just leave and it's not, and that's not true. And like not even do anything at all to try to like be helpful. Didn't feel right. So I was like at least happy that I was able to attempt to do something that like at least made it feel like I wasn't just going and doing whatever and leaving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I definitely identify, like, when you're filming in a foreign country where you're a fish out of water, like, if the people are being friendly to you, you're going to go along with it. You're going to do whatever creates the least amount of tension.
Totally.
So it's like, I guess traveling around Afghanistan now, would you say it's hard to avoid the Taliban? Like, the Taliban are going
Impossible.
to find you.
But that isn't bad. That isn't bad for you for your visit. But like, dude, bad things still, it's Afghanistan, dude. It's like, it is such a old fashioned place. Right?
Yeah.
Like, look, that's being nice, saying it's old fashioned.
Yeah.
But like, it's so unpredictable. And like our driver got shot in the head and killed recently. And the end of my special, I like put a little dedication to him. Like and what happened was one of these tour groups, they had, people wearing plain clothes and groups walking around. They didn't feel like I guess specific people felt like they weren't respecting the customs. And like one crazy guy in a village was like, that's it. Showed up with a fucking gun, started shooting everybody, killed a couple tourists, killed the driver. And yeah, like fucked up. So, it's Afghanistan. And that happened in the area where I felt the most comfortable, which is also a lesson. It's like, you think you're safe somewhere, you're not. It's just like, you just got to kind of be careful. But besides that, if you wanted to go to Afghanistan right now on a trip, it would be way more smooth sailing than when I went, because the Taliban know that they're supposed to like be cool to tourists because they need tourism so badly.
Yeah.
Which is like why I would feel bad going and feeding into that. Because
Yeah.
that was not a thing yet when I was there.
Especially like once I'm there, I'm going to be sucking up to the Taliban just because like I'm in their country. I don't want to run into any trouble. Like I'm not going to meet the Taliban and be like, why don't you let females get educated?
Yeah, dude, you're not going there with 3rd Marine Division behind you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I'm just there.
So apparently too, and that is like how I felt too. And I had these like awkward conversations all the time. And I talk about it in my special, but where they're asking me all these questions and I'm just saying what they want me to say so that I can just get out of there.
Yeah.
But apparently like,
I'd do that if I was a prisoner of war, bro.
Dude,
like
totally.
like John McCain doing it for 6.5 years, keeping his mouth shut. Not me. Like, oh, you're not gonna hang me by my skin today? What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
I'll say whatever the fuck you need me to say.
Dude, right? Yeah. So like,
and my mom would be like, "Yeah, dude, they were hanging him by his skin. What the fuck was he gonna say?"
I've heard that they're like open to like discussing differences in opinion. That's what everybody's been commenting on the couple of the clips that have gone viral where I talk about this. People are like, well, you could do that. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. I don't want to be the guy doing that. But like the Taliban are an interesting and unique group to me because a lot of the time I think that their biggest fault is just like being completely naive and stupid. So yeah, like just like being like naive and like, for example, like the whole like reason why we invaded Afghanistan to begin with is because they were allowing terrorist groups to organize and plan attacks on the West, which they did successfully in some very noteworthy times. So like, to me, I can't help but wonder, I'm like, were the Taliban just like, oh yeah, like were they just idiots and like not even knowing what was going on? Like to some degree, I wonder how much they were like on top of what they're like, oh, they're our brothers, they can be here. You know what I mean? I like don't know, but like I can't help but wonder about that.
They probably saw the videos though, the training videos, and were like, oh, there's no real threat here. Like what they're doing here, because it wasn't ever the fighting. You know, I think it was the masterminding that was happening there.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it appropriately, like they were good at communications, like internationally, without having much interception or anything like that. I feel like that there wasn't really a way for them to know. I'm sure that they knew, but not maybe to the extent of what was going on there.
And they're dealing with these like criminal masterminds who are like
Osama bin Laden. He's a piece of shit, but pretty smart guy.
Like, and these people aren't from Afghanistan. They're just like, oh, these guys are idiots, and they're going to let us do whatever we want here. Yeah. And like, it doesn't help the Taliban in any way to allow these things to happen, because it then fucks them. They don't have like ambitions to take over the world. They just want to like fucking live their weird backward life, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, how did you let this happen? Like, that's not a good thing for you. You know what I mean? So I'm like, are they just idiots? And like, the answer might be yes, dude.
Could be yes, yeah.
The answer could be yes.
I have a question about the Taliban. I read that book, Kite Runner.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think takes place like maybe before the invasion, but the Taliban were known for like having little boy lovers. Like
I think that's an Afghanistan thing.
Okay. So do you know if that is still going down?
So like everybody asked me this. I didn't see any indications of it, but apparently it is. But I guess the Taliban are trying to outlaw it.
Okay, I feel like that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
I have been asked this so much that I've been looking into it, and they're trying to get rid of opioid addicts.
Yeah,
and they are also trying to get rid of the bachabazi thing, which is like having a little boyfriend.
I was shocked that they burned all those poppy fields. Like when they first came back to power, they burned all the huge poppy fields that were there, because they didn't want opium to become as entrenched as it was before, I guess, like the heroin trade. I think that was a big agreement.
That shocks me too, because even if they didn't want any of their local people doing heroin, they would still want to be growing the poppies just to make money off of selling it.
Right.
Because like, how many options do they have, especially when there's probably sanctions on them from
some of the biggest marijuana fields in the world in Afghanistan too.
Mm-hmm.
One of my buddies, my favorite picture of him, like it's in, and I don't think a lot of like even the people in the Marine Corps, his official like death photo was him like doing a rap squat in front of like huge field of pot.
Oh shit!
It's such a great picture.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and I always think like Chris would have fucking loved that shit, man. Like that his official portrait was him in front of a bunch of weed.
Speaking of banging little boys, it always blows my mind that Alexander the Great made it like all the way out to Afghanistan. Like that was where he made it to like Pakistan and Afghanistan, and they had some ancient cities like named Alexandria in Afghanistan. Did you see like any sort of ancient ruins like that when you were out there?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying. Well, I saw like ancient stuff, but it wasn't that ancient.
Okay.
I don't think. I saw like stuff where like Genghis Khan, they're like, yeah, Genghis Khan like murdered everyone in this village. I'm like, oh really? They're like, yeah, he like, somebody like killed his nephew, so he killed everyone in the village. But like, it wasn't past that. No, like Alexander the Great stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And I wasn't saying Alexander the Great banged little boys. He may have, I don't know. But it was just that was also accepted in Greek culture way back in the day.
We'll cover that on another episode.
Yeah, for sure. But here's a crazy link. Wait, what's it called? Segue. You were mentioning Genghis Khan. I mean, the Mongols are kind of the reason why Baghdad has been like, you know, in the midst of rough times for the past few thousand years.
I didn't know that.
Well, like Baghdad at one point was one of the like most majestic cities in the world when it was the capital of the Abbasid Sultanate, I believe, and that it was supposed to be like beautiful. Just it was kind of like a ring city. There was like 8 concentric circles, one of the richest and luxurious cities on the planet. And then the Mongols just absolutely ran train on it.
Interesting.
And like people say that like it has never fully recovered from that. And I think that the the sack of Baghdad was maybe in the 1300s or something like that.
Okay.
And they're like, it's never really like,
Crazy.
they're still feeling the effects of that because they just
Crazy.
destroyed the entire city, probably killed the majority of the population.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
Today's episode of Drop a Pin is brought to you by our friends at Blue Chew. Have some better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. The combo acts fast, and it lasts for a long time. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew for free. Great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at bluechew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within just days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the U.S. and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. Make life easier by getting harder and discovering your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free when you use the promo code DROP just to pay $5 in shipping, which is a great deal. That's promo code DROP, D-R-O-P. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. Go out and get you a poke. Today's show is also brought to you by our good friends at Hey Dude. Hey Dudes are the foundation of comfort, the ultimate slip-on shoes that are lightweight, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Hey Dudes are designed to go wherever you go, from the airport security line to a night out. And the best part, there's no laces, no hassle, just pure comfort. If you're ready to stop trying shoes and start living in comfort, go to heydude.com today to find your perfect pair. And I got to be honest with the listener. Donnie showed you his shoes a couple weeks ago. And then when he was changing in here to go play basketball, he just slid them on. And then when he came back in, he pulled the tongue a little bit and went back, and they just fit again. Incredible. No laces to tie, which is a big pain in boots. Go get you some Hey Dudes today. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. The great rewards hunt is on, so join the adventure with DraftKings Casino. For fun seekers, follow the trail to huge jackpots, weekly bonuses, and exclusive games. Plus, new players can back their losses with $1,000 in the casino credits on their first day. Just sign up with the code DROP and start playing to get up to $1,000 in casino credits. I've been doing reads for a long time. I've never seen $1,000. That is wild that it's $1,000. And just sign up with the code DROP and you could start playing to get $1,000 in casino credits back with a minimum of $5 net loss. Only on DraftKings Casino. The crown is yours. Let's get back to the show.
Was there any spots that you guys went in Iraq or Afghanistan that you were blown away by the physical beauty of it?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
The marshes for me, I'd say.
The marshes were beautiful. The canal systems and the farming fields and the palm trees of Fallujah were amazing. There were certain spots during the sunset that the bright amber colors, it was just unreal.
Insane sunsets.
Yeah, the sunsets were incredible. The night sky, I even going out and walking down the road and seeing. You're how there's so many fucking stars, the most stars I think that I've ever seen in my life by far, laying out in the middle of the night, and you could see what felt like miles away just under moonlight was amazing.
Agreed.
I think a lot of Americans, when they think of the Middle East, they just think of it all being the exact same, just like large swaths of desert. Did Afghanistan look very different compared to Iraq?
Yeah, it's very mountainous. I mean, I guess it's technically, I think it depends who you talk to, but I think it's technically considered South Asia, and it's not even Middle East, which is interesting and not obvious. Very mountainous, very physically beautiful. Kind of looks like Utah.
Yeah,
a lot of the time, really big mountains, dry
Pull up Sanguine.
altitude stuff.
But are there times of the year where the mountains are covered in greenery?
Yeah, it depends like where you are. Like there's sort of like valleys and stuff. I'm trying to think. There's like a Panjshir Valley is like really green, and then up north Mazar Sharif's like a little flatter. Like there's a ton of diverse beauty, and it's just diverse in general. Like, bro, there's like people in Afghanistan who have been there their whole life who look like Francis.
Yeah.
I'm not like for real.
He was saying the same thing.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's crazy. Blue eye, redheads, like, and you're like, you're from here? Like, what? So it's like not Middle Eastern. They don't speak Arabic. Like, it's pretty interesting, man. It's like very tribal. Bandi Amir Lake is like one of the, I think it's a UNESCO heritage site also. It's like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. You guys have probably seen those like video of the Taliban paddle boating in the lake. I think it was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
it was like Camp Heavyweights, but dude,
the Taliban version.
just do Afghanistan mountain Sanguine appears that there's just a lot of war
Was it
pictures.
the Taliban that were also the ones on rollerblades?
I think so.
Yeah, going through the town.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently they were just all like hauled up in the mountains, and then when they
Like
all
beautiful.
Yeah.
when the U.S. left, they all came down and they were driving around, and none of them knew how to drive, so they were all just crashing the cars constantly. Like very significant learning curve for them, man. And you can't help but think, bro, as you sit with these guys, and this is the most frustrating thing to me. You're like sitting with this guy, you're like, this guy's like a nice guy. Like if he just had like a normal fucking education, and not to be like education, if he just knew stuff the way anybody else does, he would never be living this life.
That's the reason why I left the church. It's the reason why I stopped believing in religion is what you just said. When I was walking down the streets and I would see people and I'm like, these people are going to hell? Like what choice did they have to be born here? Like they can't
Dude,
hear. It's against
bad
the law
luck.
for them to
Yeah.
hear. Like what are they supposed to do? And
That killed
it
me.
completely changed my entire view. Like because people are people, you know, like wherever you live in the world, you're just and a lot of times you are a product of your environment.
Totally.
100%.
And it like you're telling like just because you're born in New York, you're going to be a Yankees or a Mets fan. Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles, you know. Like you're born in Afghanistan, you might be fucking with the Taliban a little bit,
Dude, and this is the thing too.
Or you're fucked because the people who don't fuck with the Taliban there.
right?
Right, it's like a good
Shafted.
job. Or like
Yeah.
we were playing cricket in the park with these kids. Like, come meet my cousin. Like he's in the Taliban. They were like bragging about it. I was like, oh fuck. Like what the like this? Okay, like that's
Yeah.
insane. Yeah,
You should see what CNN's saying about you guys.
yeah, dude. Yeah, and yeah, man, it's just a bummer. And especially just like even on a day-to-day basis, like how like naive and gullible the average. And it's a weird parallel to like. You hear stories about, quote, the hood where like 14-year-olds have guns and are shooting each other. And it's like, it reminds me of that. Like you get stopped at a checkpoint and these Taliban teenagers are like, hey, you need to take our guy with you to the next city. And we'd be like, no. And they'd be like, why? And we'd be like, because we don't know you. And they'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you can go. And we're like, are you serious? Like that, like all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, it was like seeing a person who had never seen anything in their whole life. Every day, all day long.
Yeah.
And it was just a fucking bummer, dude. Just a fucking bummer. And that to me about Afghanistan was difficult. I'm like, I want to be in a place when it's like feels like things are going well. And it's just like you're constantly meeting people that whether they know it or not, their life like could be way better if they didn't have the shittiest passport in the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like this fucking sucks for you, and I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say.
Well, hey, I'd rather live there than India.
India stressed you out?
I mean, it was
Johnny's
just...
become
it
the
was-
biggest India hater.
No, I'm not the... Well, just... I only visited Delhi
Naresh
and
won't even come in the
Mumbai, like
studio
two of the
anymore.
largest cities. And I just... Yeah, I felt... I mean, if you were like, you could be born in a slum in India or you could be like born in Afghanistan, like, I don't know. I might...
I'm intimidated by India. I've never been, but like,
Yeah, I think you might be right. Like living conditions wise, like the slums.
Yeah, you're just like...
But I mean,
surrounded
there
by-
it's like -20 in the winter too.
oh, dude, yeah, crazy snow. Like, the scariest thing that happened to me in Afghanistan was driving through, and maybe pull this up too. It's called the, oh God, what the fuck is it called? It's this tunnel. It's like it's a mountain tunnel. It's the something pass, dude. This is like a 7-mile long tunnel that goes through a mountain. The Soviets built it. You're at like 11,000 feet. There, it's not paved. There's no lights. There's no ventilation. Yeah, that's it. The one on the left, far left. Bro, look at this fucking thing. That drive takes 20 minutes, and we got stuck in traffic because somebody got a flat tire, and I thought I was gonna die. That's the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Was being stuck in a traffic jam in that.
Claustrophobic. That's
what is it called
again?
Out. The Salang Tunnel. Yeah, it's like, dude, that drive to begin with is terrible. So, dude, I did that drive, and then that night we get like taken by the Taliban.
So what happened that time?
So they make us get on the side of the road, and they would do that, and they'd usually just like want to take a selfie with you, and that would be it. And like you couldn't take a picture, not that I wanted to, but like even if I wanted to and I didn't want to show anybody ever, like you weren't even allowed to. Not the same now. But so we're eating on the side of the road. They have a bunch of beans in a Gatorade cooler, which is insane. Compliments of you. Yeah. And they're like, sorry, we only have beans, dude. I'm like, it's fine. So then
give me some of them beans then.
We're sitting in a circle.
You're like using the spout trying to get the beans out.
Dude, and they're asking me all these fucking questions. And, I'm like, Jesus. And think about like the scariest Taliban guy in your mind right now, and this is the type of people we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the Taliban are diverse too, so you're not always with those kind of guys, but this time we were. And then we're like, all right, bye. And they're like, no, the commander wants to meet you.
Fucking DEI Taliban.
Yeah.
That's all they care about is diversity now. Fucking ridiculous.
Fucking unbelievably backward, dude.
Yeah.
So then they're like, you have to go meet
Musk
the commander.
over there.
Yeah, seriously. The commander is like 45 minutes away in the other direction. They send a guy in our car with a gun. And now we're chit-chatting. And at this point, I know that my God is not in control. And now I'm like, this is scary. Even though it ultimately ended up not being a scary situation, like it's nighttime. We show up at this Taliban compound. The entire room is just, the walls of the room are lined with guns. And I know you're thinking, well, what did you expect? You're going to Afghanistan. Okay, fine. You're right. But like, I wasn't looking for this to happen. Okay. So, and all that's happening, the guide is like, look, this guy's a comedian. He's showing him my videos. The guy, he's looking at it. You could tell he doesn't know what he's looking at. He's just going, Then they're like, we're going to search you. And we were like, well, what do you mean? I thought like we're your guests. Like, why are you searching us? They're like, yeah, but you're going to search yourself so that we can be polite. I was like, okay. So now they stand over us and we show them everything that we have, including I have a little mini thing of Tums. And he goes, what's that? I'm like, like indigestion. I'm like, and he's like, oh, I give him a couple Tums. He eats them. He goes, I'm like, those are pretty fucking good, right? Like,
candy.
Yeah. So then we go out into the parking lot and they keep searching us. And now when you're like in the dark in a parking lot, that's like even scarier. You're like, oh, like we were just inside. It was fine. But now like it's going to be, they're like doing some like mental whatever. They weren't, but like felt that way, dude. And I'm like 2 or 3 steps away from like a scenario that like is a nightmare. Like why did I do this? Like this feels like I bit off more than I can chew here. So I had all this money, and what this money was going to go toward was this school that we were going to start. We had decided we were going to do it a couple days before. You need cash in Afghanistan. So probably have $5,000. I thought I was being slick. I like scattered it around my bags, which was stupid because they ended up finding it because I did that. If I'd had it in one place. There's a bunch of money in an iPad. They didn't know to open the case. They just held the iPad and then they put they find the biggest stack of money. The commander takes it. He films him. He has someone film him counting it all and giving it back to me so that he can prove that he didn't take any, because they're not supposed to extort people. They're not supposed to take bribes. Camera gets turned off. He goes, what about a donation? And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, this is what this is about. They're going to take all my money. And I was like, well, how much do you guys want? And he was like, I don't know, $100. I was like, yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Can you leave? He's like, yeah. And then the next day when
It's
I
like
started
5
the
months
school.
salary though. Like
Yeah.
I mean, that's a shit ton
That's
of
a
money.
teacher's salary, $100.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then they let us go and that was it. And then we went and started the school. If they'd taken all the money, it would have never happened. So thank you, Taliban, for allowing the Western education that's happening right now in one of your villages.
How did you find like contacts in Afghanistan that you could trust to help start this school?
So, okay, so I met them all, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. And pretty much everybody's like, you're getting scammed. I'm pretty sure I'm not. Like they send like video updates. I'm like very like aware of the fact that like things get desperate and that could happen.
But it's different when it's somebody like traveled like you, intelligent, than like my grandma giving money to fucking some school.
If someone calls her on the phone,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Like I feel like that's a little bit different. Like you can verify some things and have a little bit of common sense.
I think so. So the one guy that helped to set it up, he was like, just spent the whole week with him. Like I really trusted him and we were talking about it. And I'm like, we went in this cave school, which is like not as sexy as it sounds. Like caves
It
are
does
just like
sound sexy, yeah.
But they're like the temperature's really consistent. It's like really good for things.
Yeah.
So they had the school in the cave. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So we donated a little money to that. And then I was like, I was like, what's up with school around here? He's like, well, nobody really, there's no money. So like we've had to shut some of the schools. I was like, do you know any teachers? He's like, yeah. I was like, should we like start a school? He's like, okay. So we met. He's like, yes, like brother Giulio, I can arrange that. So we meet, like we have this round table, like wise man day together where we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We discuss the way they do in Game of Thrones, like how it would all work. And then we started it and started doing it. And I did all like, dude, how much work it's been to do it is like kind of crazy. Like you could start a charity, but it's just like a lot of work. But the whole time, anytime I'm like, fuck, this is such a headache. I'm like, how little of a headache this is compared to what these people have to go through. And seeing these like 14-year-old girls, 13-year-old girls, this is before they made the 12-year-old rule thing, say they want to be a doctor someday. And these are like baddies, dude. These are like a 14-year-old girl who could be like a supermodel one day. And she's saying, I'm going to be a doctor in the future. It's like, no, you're not. You're not going to be anything. And that's so fucked up and sad. And it just made me so sad. I'm like, maybe is there some way? So anyway, before we had a thing where we were teaching older people in private, like secretly. I don't know if they're still doing it. It's a bit hard to do. But anyway, I was like, I think it would be nice to like try to allow people to at least learn some stuff, because who knows? Learning stuff gives you a better shot as a baseline. So yeah, we've set up this little curriculum without being too like Western about it. I wasn't like, you're going to do this. We discussed what would be the right things to teach them. We hired a bunch of teachers and then we started doing it. And then it's kind of like ebbed and flowed a bit depending on if the Taliban's giving them a hard time. We did background checks on all the people we send money to make sure there's no, what's the international money thing called? There's like a word for it. If you've committed, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I forget, but there's a thing that you have to search. So we had like the Northwestern like law lab take us on as like their semester project. So they did all of the due diligence for us, and we just sent money over there, raised a bunch of money in Instagram stories.
The Liverpool financial system, is that what you're talking about?
No, I forget. There's like a OFAC.
OFAC.
Okay. Yeah.
The Liverpool? I wouldn't trust people from Liverpool to be judging people's like financial security.
No, there's an international like investigation agency that's financial crimes that happens out of there.
Oh, okay. Interesting. But yeah, so we had to do background checks on everybody, and then the school was like doing really well for a while. But then a couple of people we were sending money to, after the driver got killed, they like got kind of spooked about it. So they're like, can we just like absorb the kids into other schools, and maybe we can think of like another thing to do. So we're starting like a library. I named it after my wife, and
awesome.
I just thought it would be ceremonially nice to name it after a woman, just to like allow little girls to be like tangentially close to a powerful, successful woman from like a vibe perspective. I was like, this is like a nice fuck you to the Taliban also. So they don't know what Hillary is. Hillary? No. Oh, Hillary. I fucking know.
Yeah. Are they going to be like Hillary Clinton? Let's hope they don't assume that.
One L. Hopefully the not.
Everybody's mass deleting emails.
So yeah, we're doing that now, and we just bought a bunch of books, and now the next thing is we're building like some of the infrastructure in the inside. So hopefully it'll just be a nice thing, and hopefully we can keep trying to support them, and hopefully things will get better for them, man. I don't know.
But it is hard to appropriately sell how scary it is the first time you roll up to a place like that and everybody has AKs.
Agreed.
It is
agreed.
It's impossible to sell the feeling that you have inside your body.
Bro, they had this one too. They had the heat gun.
Yeah.
Bro, like handles, like the back of the pickup truck gun, like all this, how scary that is, dude. And even people just having it, but yeah, like, and you're a fucking soul, like you're a Marine, bro. And like for you to say that is very satisfying because
dude,
it's so
I mean, I was a reconnaissance Marine, so like the Marine version of Navy SEALs, essentially. Like rolling up even with my guys, and you see dudes that are like, they have this essentially ski mask on, or they have the bandana where you can't see anything but their eyes, and then they have like the green pants and the AK strapped on their side. You're just like, fuck, man.
That's a scary motherfucker.
Yeah, it's scary. Like no matter who you are, what you do for a living, that shit's scary. And I was scared, like, they're knowing kind of what I'm doing. Like, that's why, like, when you guys go to these places, based on my own experiences, I'm just like, holy shit, man. Like, the balls on you guys to do that. It's crazy.
I think just like from your
Balls or
perspective, you have it from a military perspective where there is some sort of target on your head, just being in the U.S. military
True.
and being in a country like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're a tourist, they don't have a lot to gain from apprehending a tourist.
Right, unless it's like some sort of political barter situation, which is scary. But like anytime I start thinking that I'm scared of that, on Wikipedia, they always have the lists of all the people who've ever been detained in countries illegally, or like not illegally, but for like bullshit spying charges. And dude, it's like a handful of people. And I'm like, that I like playing the percentages. You know what I mean? I'm scared of food poisoning and getting robbed. Those are my two. Like everything else, I'm just like less scared of, as long as I'm not putting myself in a crazy situation, which I wouldn't even consider just going to Afghanistan as being. I mean, like going into an active war zone to me is like being reckless, and people do it unless you're there for your job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess like North Korea and Russia, like two spots I wouldn't want to go right now because I feel like their governments might see detaining an American.
Venezuela
like,
should be on that
could
list
be
too.
used as
where?
Venezuela should be on that
yeah,
list
like
too.
they could actually be like, all right, like having an American captive could be used as a bargaining chip.
Right.
Canada.
I've been detained in Russia, by the way.
Oh yeah, you.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
well,
you shared that story on the Yak.
Yeah.
I haven't
Did I?
heard it though.
Did I tell it on the Yak?
Already.
He was telling me.
No,
he
I
was
told
saying-
it. I said on Mook yesterday.
Oh,
briefly,
yeah.
I did.
I haven't heard
On
it, though.
Mook
What
yesterday.
happened?
It's not that great of a story. I'll be brief about it, but like basically,
I don't like the way this is starting out humble already. You got detained in Russia.
okay. So I went. My dad is a professor, so he does like political science stuff. So what they'll do is they'll have this like academic conference every couple of years in a different country, and they try to pick countries that no one's ever been to. This is before the war, so we're gonna go to Russia. So I decide I'm gonna get my visa myself, whatever. And I wasn't really an experienced traveler yet, and I had a visa company take care of it. But for whatever reason, they marked my entry as being 2 days later than it actually was, which like, if you can't get away with that usually. So I basically tried to enter the country illegally, which is ridiculous. But anyway, they detained me in the airport for like 8 hours. They said they're sending me back to Switzerland, and then I was going to go back to America. They said they handed me this thick document of how I broke the law and blah, 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 fucking blah. And the flights kept being full, so they couldn't send me back. So now it's like 11 o'clock, and they're like, you're going to have to stay here until tomorrow morning. I'm just have to sit in this room in the airport. I'm like, well, can I buy my own flight to leave? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you weren't going to fucking tell me that? Like,
Yeah.
How are you not going to just like Russia? Like, they're just not helpful over there.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, this guy might not know this. I should tell him this.
Mm-hmm.
But the one nice thing that the guy did, I was like, dude, this is stupid. And he goes, I know it's stupid. I didn't make the rules. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for that at least. So then I'm like, whatever. I'm still going to Russia. Fuck this. Like this, I came all the way here. So my girlfriend, now wife at the time, her sister was in Turkey opening a hotel in Bodrum.
Okay.
Which is like the
sick area,
there's an
yeah.
Edition there. She was opening the Edition in Bodrum, which is like a sick hotel.
Can they hook up the Bald Stool Boys on the next trip?
We'll see.
Can we get like a floor of the
She doesn't
hotel?
work for Marriott anymore, but
All right.
I'll see what I can do. But so I'm like, all right. So the only flight we could find was a 3-leg flight through Baku, Azerbaijan, then Istanbul, and then to Bodrum. They don't hand me my passport back until I cross the border in Azerbaijan. It was like so intense. Then I missed my flight in Istanbul. I'm in that airport for 12 hours. I then finally get to Bodrum. I end up at an influencer dinner. I'm sitting with fucking Mike D from the Beastie Boys. I'm like, this is a crazy
That is a plus. dude.
180.
That's like he's a childhood hero of mine.
dude. It was sick. I haven't slept. I didn't have clothes because my clothes went through in Russia. So now my girlfriend's sister bought me clothes. Now I'm on this romantic getaway with my girlfriend's sister, like a fucking dog.
Yeah.
But have a great 2 days and then have to take the sketchiest like Aeroflot 3 flight thing back to Russia. Going back into Russia was like the scariest, sketchiest thing ever. And then once I got into the country, I sent a couple of my friends who speak Russian, read Russian, the document. They're like, what the fuck did you do? This document's insane. I'm like, what do you mean? In the document, it says he's committed a serious crime, but he appears to be very sorry. There in the official document. Then they go, therefore, he will only have to pay a fine. I'm like, fuck, how much do I owe? It was $16. But I had to go.
$16, but you had to fly
16.
to Turkey.
16.
16, but then the cost of having to fly to Turkey and then fly all the way back to Russia.
Dude. And I probably had $1,000 to my name. I remember and then I had shows in Scandinavia after that. And then I was flying back to America. And my flight, they had canceled my flight from Norway to America without telling me because it was part of my Russia itinerary. So then I had to buy another flight. I remember there was like turbulence. I was like, I'm ruined financially. Like if this flight goes down, I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah.
But I went back. But then I went back to Russia and it was completely fine. But I was detained in the Russian airport for 10 hours and then went back and had a great time in St. Petersburg.
Okay, St. Petersburg. That seems like a cool city.
Unbelievable.
I was just in Moscow for about a week in the middle of the winter and like
Recently?
no, this was before the war.
Okay.
Went to watch a hockey game, and it's one of the few countries where I'm like, I'm not eager to go back. But I think it was also just because of me not knowing the right people. I think if I had some Russian friends that were showing me around, I would have had a good time. I just didn't have any local. The only fixer I had was this French-Canadian journalist who was like, I'll take you to the hockey game, show you around. I go, I want an authentic Russian meal, and he took me to Hooters because he had a crush on one of the waitresses
Hell
there.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Like, he did not give a fuck about what I wanted to do. He was
Hilarious.
just like,
I didn't even know they had Hooters in Russia. That's incredible.
now I wonder if they still do. Well, they got rid of McDonald's when the war started, but I think they probably still have a Hooters.
So what they renamed it something. They still have everything. They just like it's a blatant
they
rip
can't-
off. Yeah.
they can't
You
call
can't
it
use cards
McDonald's.
anymore over there either. It's like,
Oh yeah.
but I've just found, to your point, it's like not an easy place to get around as a foreigner who doesn't know anyone. People like Russian culture. If you smile, you're like they think you're like a moron or like a bitch. So
Yeah.
like no one smiles. They don't seem helpful. If you're like, if I'm like, can you help me? People will be like, pfft. Like even when I was in the airport, I'd be like, can I go to the bathroom? The girl will go. Like
Like
just
you really put them out.
dude, yeah, it was like crazy. So
These fucking Americans and they're pissing.
Yeah.
what would happen? Like I was going to Finland. I was taking the train to Finland. I missed the train, and then I go, "Can I get on the next one?" They go, "There's no more trains," and they're barely English. Like no train, no more train. I'm like, "There's no more trains." They're like, "No 2-day train," and then I go in the corner of the train station and I do this, and then someone comes and helps me. Once you start doing this, someone goes, "There's more train." You have to know how to ask the question the right way.
So you just have to put your head on your hands.
Yeah, if you
You have to be like, "I'm
if you
about to
appear
fucking
to
kill
be
myself."
suffering, they're like, that guy's suffering, we'll help him. It's just like culturally like super fucking different. And I wouldn't say that people aren't cool, but they don't seem cool. It's not the way it is here or in most of my travels. Like people aren't like, "Oh my God, nice for you to be here."
What
If
a shitty place to be from. Where you just like
Dude.
being miserable is how you're supposed to go through
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
They must. I mean, I would love to just like sit down at a table in Russia and just like drink vodka for 4 hours. I bet like we'd eventually start smiling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you have to like have the breakthrough. And also if you learn like a teeny bit of Russian, people are like, they fuck with you. They're like, all right, respect. If you can, like,
Amerikansky.
Yeah. It's got to be uncomfortable being Russian right now because there still are a lot of Russians out there traveling the world, and like I've met a few, and then when I ask them where they're from, they kind of seem ashamed to say they're from Russia just because they've been like they're currently seen as one of the world's bad guys.
totally.
Are we the baddies?
Well, it's more like if someone kind of like sees you and you're from the U.S. and they hate Trump, and they'll
For
be
sure.
like
Yeah.
oh, you fucking American, like
Yeah,
you
like
guys
a Canadian
you
hockey
guys
game right now.
voted for Trump, and
Yeah,
so they'll
right.
just be
Yeah, seriously.
so it's just because they're a Russian, they don't have a lot of say in what their government does, and
Yeah.
so they're just like, oh, this person is already gonna judge me for what Putin's doing,
And we do it. I mean, we as
Yeah.
Americans, we do it. Like we look at something like, "Oh, you're Iranian?" Like, "Oh shit!" Like you must really hate America. And most people from most Persians are like, "Nah, dude. Like we don't have a problem."
I know.
Yeah.
And to me, Iran is like is one that is a place I'm very interested in. Like it's developed, it's like pretty modern, and people are good. And I find it very humbling how good most people who we've had military beef with are at being like, "You didn't shoot me. Is your name Chaps, dude? I have no beef with you." For real though, they literally. And I'm like, "Oh, we don't have that much here. We're not as good about that. We're more like, oh, you're part of that team that we don't like. Fuck
Yeah,
you."
like North Koreans. Like you're and North Korean
But
people.
how often do you meet a North Korean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like
But, yeah.
you would assume, like the American way is like, oh, they agree with everything that's happening in North
Well,
Korea, and they don't.
North Koreans probably do hate America because that's the only thing they can see. That's the only sort of media
Yeah.
they can consume. They don't like
Sure,
know.
sure.
I think Iranians, they have access to enough to be like, oh, okay. Like I think the average American we don't have a problem with. It's
Yeah,
just
and the
our
average
government
American
hates-
does have access to know that the average North Korean's probably not a bad person, or Iranian's a bad person, or Iraqi or Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But that's not the American thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an amazing documentary on PBS. It's a Frontline episode. It's called Our Man in Tehran, and it's this guy who married a Persian woman. He's Dutch and he lives there and he speaks Farsi. And he's like a journalist, and the whole thing is about him figuring out how people can be like, I love Americans, but I hate America. And it's like, and he has these discussions. This guy's like, fuck America, burn America. And then he's like, well, why are you saying that if you don't believe that? And like, he speaks perfect. So like watch, and it's like funny watching this guy. It's like one of the most underrated things I've ever seen. If you're interested in watching a PBS documentary, it's really funny.
I think that makes sense though, just because like our government has been behind a couple coups in Iran, or at least one. And they probably just see like, oh, well, like it was America, it was the CIA in America that's been like meddling with our country for so long. Fuck America. But they just mean the government. They don't have like a problem.
I guess I don't know. I'm curious about it. But I know they're famous for hanging on to people.
Yeah,
Freaks me out a little.
Would you try to go to Iran in the next like 5 years?
Probably.
Yeah.
Cheap
Maybe I'll
gas.
join you. I will say this.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
I went to the Iran versus USA World Cup game, and like some of the most beautiful women I've seen in the world.
Yeah.
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 I think that's pretty universal.
Persian
like
women
that.
are like.
Yeah,
Iranian
my friend married a Persian, but it's like, yeah, I mean, even his wife
Persian
is,
dudes too, not just the ladies.
Yeah.
Dudes are hot. I'd hit.
but I think even his wife's too afraid
I
to go
like
back.
It's worse for like people with ethnic ties there.
Yeah,
They're
because
more
they're
likely
like
to get
they might just
caught
keep
out.
us there.
That happens more
Yeah.
often.
There's that one island though in the Persian Gulf. It's called like Kish maybe or something. It's got a cool name, and that's the one part of Iran that you don't need a visa to go to. You can just show up.
You told me. I remember it was
Yeah,
Rowan was supposed to
because
go.
Rowan still has to go to Iran. He lost some sort of competition on the yak. But I've also been seeing a lot of people going to Syria now that it's been now that the Assad regime has been toppled. Would you ever do that?
Definitely. And it's funny. I was like as gung-ho as I could possibly be about it until literally an hour before this podcast. I was reading something about potential retribution against the sort of Alawites and the sort of like old minority group.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm interested about that. It was like a tweet. I don't know much about it, but
Yeah, they're bringing the Constitution to the new like interim president, and to see like how much Sharia was going to be involved in their like new constitution that they're going to have.
that's like a new development.
Yeah,
Didn't
like
they say
that
that
was today?
They
I
said they
think.
weren't gonna, but is it like potentially bullshit?
I don't know. I hope not.
Because the guy was like formerly sort of like an extremist, like out, like not even parallel. He was like part of ISIS, but like made a very pronounced separation from it all, and then said that he intends to like govern the country fairly and allow people to do their thing. Borders are open for tourists, and everybody there seems to be stoked about it, which is always a good sign. But who knows? It just happened. And what did your instincts say?
I don't know. I'm not smart enough to really have any super foreign like insights about what's going on. But I mean, just historically, I don't know if they can like after having that long of a dictatorship between Bashar al-Assad and his dad, like you're talking about what 50 years at this point under the Assads. So anytime you have a
longer.
transition of that type of domineering relationship between the sovereign and the state, I don't know if you can get to a straight quote democracy right away.
Right.
Yeah.
There'll probably be some hiccups along the road, but at least the intentions are good. And I think there is some in the area that they're trying to be friendly with. Like I think some of the like UAE is a good sign. Saudi being involved, which is crazy to say, is a
I
decent
know.
sign in the Middle East.
Especially after 10 years ago they're chopping up journalists into little
Yeah.
pieces.
I mean, not even. I mean,
Yeah,
shit with
that was-
Trump, like when the Washington Post reporter.
Yeah, but wasn't that like 10 years? Was that not 10
Was
years
that
ago?
10 years ago now?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah.
You would have to think everyone there has to have some sort of just like war fatigue, because the civil war has been going on for how many years?
In Syria for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like that was one of those things I remember when it was first happening and we were already sort of like balls deep in Iraq and Afghanistan. And there was all these people like posting being like, oh, tell Obama, like don't send troops into Syria, blah, blah, blah. And I can't help but wonder like if we had, would it have been a different outcome? Or would it have just been some different, equally bad outcome?
I think it would have been a different color, same outcome.
Right,
You know, like
right.
chaos is going to be chaos. Just depends on who ends up on the quote throne after.
Right.
You know, like probably not great, especially with how much people in the region hated us, and rightfully so.
Totally.
I mean, I always said if the roles were reversed here, I'd have been a member of Al Qaeda in a second. Like if I viewed my homeland being invaded, and there's invaders going down the street, I'm planting IEDs to try to take those fuckers out. But that's essentially what the Minutemen were, the original Al Qaeda.
Right, just insurgent warfare.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you watch the whole Star Wars trilogy, it's pretty much about like a group of like rebel terrorists trying to fight against the Empire,
Yeah.
aka the United States.
And don't take those parallels if you're listening all the way. I'm not saying that the Minutemen were literally Al Qaeda.
Yeah,
That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But there's a lot of parallels,
There's
like
parallels.
protecting your homeland, insurgency, guerrilla warfare, all that.
But the difference with Al Qaeda is that Al Qaeda is like based more on like the ideological thing. So people are like traveling elsewhere as
Yeah.
part of this like greater thing, as opposed to being like, you're in my fucking turf, get out of here.
The Taliban
worse.
is more like
A proper insurgency.
Localized, yeah.
Right. Get off our land,
Yeah, they don't travel much.
bro.
have no interest in.
Taliban, no.
Crazy. But in Kabul, you would see the like higher ranking guys. They would, if you're driving a 4Runner, that's like the Bentley of Afghanistan. If you have a Land Cruiser or a 4Runner, you're like a fucking baller. And when you'd see them,
Or had a Falcon.
or had a Falcon.
I don't even know if the higher ups in the Taliban can afford the Falcons. That might be
Oh, they
reserved for
have
the
Falcon.
UAE.
They do some falconry
Kentucky.
there.
Yeah, they do.
I would, because
That'd be
I mean, being a
sick.
dog handler, I would love to go to falconry school.
Yeah,
That'd be so
it's
sick.
huge in Mongolia as
Cool.
well.
So sick.
Love to
Sense.
do
Oh,
it.
they do the like throat singing thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mongolian throat singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so cool. I don't know.
Crazy.
I think the largest animals that they'll catch with a falcon is like a small deer.
That's
Like, yeah, they can send out a
wild.
falcon. They'll just snatch up.
They
a
pull
deer.
the eye mask off and they're like, fucking go.
Yeah,
It's like, what's that movie where like he's unchained and they say they treat him like a dog? Jet
Django
Li?
Unchained.
No, nope. Jet Li's in it.
Romeo
Oh,
Must Die.
the one.
Well,
Romeo
they
Must
like
Die?
click him off of his leash. He's on like a chain, and as soon as he does, he like turns into this wild killer. That's essentially what those falcons are. It'd be incredible to train one.
Crazy.
So much
Yeah.
fun.
Crazy, man. But yeah, like if you were sitting at lunch or something and you saw Taliban people, the thing that's interesting about Afghanistan, you have to dress the way they all dress because it's just like insane not to. Like if you didn't, you're just like bringing attention to yourself. So like you get the clothes, whatever. So because it's so diverse,
You're a lot cooler too.
that yeah, dude, they're the most comfortable clothes. I still
I
have them,
know.
and sometimes I'll get hammered and throw them on and just like watch my video back and fucking wearing the hat.
He should have
get
done this show with
I
it on.
imagine,
Yeah.
oh my god.
No, imagine just like New York City and like
We should start doing that, like for every episode.
Dressing like
traditional
who we
dress.
I like that idea.
Welcome back to our
That would
episode on
be- I mean-
Mongolia.
Because dude, in like
Genghis
Manhattan,
Don's here with us.
July or August, it's so hot and humid. Do you think you would be more comfortable if you could just rock Taliban garb down the streets of Manhattan?
Like the Afghan garb, yes.
Yeah.
Like the like baggy pants, they're like really thin. The like long thing, dude. It's the most comfortable shit you'll ever wear. But
Maybe not ideal for the subway.
potentially not ideal for the summer. It's thin enough that like yeah, you don't want to like get it dirty and shit. But as long as you're not speaking English, no one will suspect that you're not from there.
Because like the
So diverse.
Afghani people look so diverse.
Everybody
yeah.
just looks. But the second they hear you speaking English, they come, oh, what are you guys doing? Where are you guys from? Da, da, da. And then it turns into this whole thing. When I went, like I said, now they just be like, oh, come with us. And they'll film you like doing this like Muslim ritual, like all this shit that like is just stuff that's out of your control that you potentially don't want to be doing.
Getting you to ride like a Lime scooter and shit.
Dude, but like crazy shit to say that like your experience has been good and then they post it. Like you don't want to be part of propaganda shit, dude. But then they just be like really sketched out by you and they're like trying to like make sure you're not like a spy or a soldier. And then by the end, they're like, take my number if you want to become a Muslim. Like the imams will be really stoked. Like you don't have to, but we'll be here tomorrow. Like come by if you want to become a Muslim. I'd be like, all right, dude.
How long does that take?
To become, I think it takes a
become
few
Muslim?
hours.
I'd have done
Okay.
Dude.
it. What's the drawback?
Were you ever asked, are you Jewish? Because we had a friend that was like, okay.
In Afghanistan?
No, he was detained by Hezbollah in Lebanon. At one point, they kept on asking him.
Like
are you-"
recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Here's a
But
dude
I
that
think
was
that's
on
because
Baldstool with Donnie.
Lebanon and Israel have a
Like
lot
current,
more,
like,
lot more
tension.
contentious.
I'll say this: Beirut is probably the coolest city I've ever been to. Best party scene, like unbelievably hot chicks, like party, dude. Like I was like a young single guy. Like I had one of the best nights of my life in Beirut. Like
Did you get laid in Beirut? You don't.
Hell yeah.
Hell fucking
plead the
yeah.
fifth, brother.
Hell yeah.
But no, but so, dude, we went out and my friend and I tried like hitting on these girls, and they were sort of like, like, voila, like, who do you think you are? Like, and we're like, all right, whatever. And we said we were from New York. We're trying to spit game. Then the song "I'm from New York" comes on, and they like look across the room at us. They're like, okay, like, you.
Oh shit.
And then just end up having this like full ass night with them. Like, it was so much fun. Like,
Hell yeah.
amazing. 3-4 years later, I'm like, oh, I wonder what Alexandra's up to. I look her up. She survived a plane crash, like a commercial plane crash.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like in her profile, like plane crash survivor. I'm like, oh, and I Wikipedia'd it, looked it up. Like, I was like, this is crazy.
Jeez.
Those are hard to come by.
I know.
Jeez.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, but
Very
yeah,
cool.
dude, Beirut is like no rules, like Paris with no rules, with like 10 times hotter chicks.
That's my friend. That was one of the first things he said. Lebanese chicks are beautiful.
It's like the top.
top. Fucking A.
Top, yeah.
The top. The top.
All right. Hit me with like 3 countries you would like to travel to in the next 5 years, besides Iran and Syria. We've already talked about that.
Okay.
Because those are at the top of everybody's list.
Yeah, come on. Everyone's going there.
3 countries I would like to travel to in the next 5 years besides those 2. Man, I shouldn't be stumped by this. I mean, there's just so many, obviously.
You were saying you were planning a trip to Nepal?
Nepal and
Is
Bhutan.
that-
Thank you for setting me up with your guy. I'm about to do that in like 2 weeks.
okay, and you're going to go to Nepal and Bhutan?
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
I got a
that's
guy in Bhutan I can put you in touch with too,
Oh, really?
if you need it.
I
Yeah.
just I have it like fully arranged, but I'd love to talk to him and like see what he had to say. If you want to send
Okay.
me his contact, yeah. Did you have a good time there?
I never made it to Bhutan. I had a great time in Nepal. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Didn't they say only like 1,500 people a year getting to...
It's like, yeah, they don't have a lot of tourists. They do charge. It's like
It's expensive.
$225 a day or something.
I think it's 100 a day.
Okay, 100 a day, but that comes with a place to stay and like meals.
Does it?
I thought it was like 200 or something, but then like they're also taking care of your lodging.
Oh,
and
so
stuff.
that's why it was 200 then with your setup.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
with mine it's 100 a day, but then all the other stuff is a la carte also.
Okay.
But so yeah, I would say that place I want to go. All right, Japan.
Yeah.
I would like to go on like really cool trips with my wife, to be honest. Like I love doing all the video stuff and I want to keep doing it, but it's fun to like for us to be able to meet in the middle and like do something that is adventurous for both of us, but like also relaxing and sick. I think Namibia sounds really cool.
I've been there.
Was it amazing?
Yes, it was very cool. Billy Football's been there too. He was raving about it. There's a town called Swapcoat Moon, which is on the coast, and you're just like traveling through dunes for like hours, and all of a sudden you get to this town. It looks like Germany from 1915
No way.
because it used to be a German colony. So the architecture is German. A lot of the food is German. The people were friendly, and it's also an adventure sport hotspot. So that was the first place I ever went skydiving. But
No way.
you can go like dune surfing.
Sick.
You can go to the beach. You can camp out in the dunes. So yeah, I would highly recommend it.
Sick. And then now that we're on the topic, I mean, there's plenty of other places, but so I want to say 2. So first of all, the idea of running in the North Korea marathon, that is the second biggest stadium on the planet, and they fill it. So you feel like you're a fucking Olympic athlete, and they cheer you on, and like,
I think that seats 220,000 people.
dude, it's like, yeah.
Look that up, Sam.
I think we checked this yesterday. I think we were looking at
capacity.
stadiums.
I think it's the biggest one in the world, right?
Number 2.
Is it?
India has the biggest.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but I also want to go to Eritrea because I heard there's like Italian, like amazing Italian restaurants and shit.
Okay.
And it's like random and hard to get into and all that stuff kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like
150,000
the
seats.
coastline of Ethiopia. If you have never heard of Eritrea before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
former Italian.
Hermit country.
Yeah.
Hard to get into, etc. And you know, man, I'm not a risk taker, as much as crazy as that sounds to everybody. I don't want to like put myself in precarious situations. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to leave my family behind. But I want to explore, and I'm not willing to give that up. So I'm going to take as many measured risks as I can and try to see as much of the world as I can.
Sweet. Well, I do know someone who ran the Pyongyang half marathon, I think.
Oh, okay.
When I knew him when I lived in China, so I'll put you two in touch.
Thank you, man.
If you're trying to do it.
Thank you. And yeah, if I can help you, man. I mean, I think as far as like travel content goes, I was telling them yesterday too. I think like you to me are by far the funniest travel content person. I don't think there's even a close second.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And it's so hard to do. It's so easy to be cringe when you make travel content. And even some of the vloggers I find cringe, and I still watch the show. I'm like, this is fucking cringe though. Like your shit's so funny. You clearly are like passionate about it. I love watching your stuff. And I got the inspiration to go to Afghanistan because of you. Because in your Tajikistan series, when you were like standing across the river and you're like,
oh yeah,
I was like, oh dude, like I'm going to Afghanistan.
Yes, I technically have set eyes on Afghanistan. I
remember
saw
that.
it across the river. I tried to throw a rock into Afghanistan.
And when I was watching that video, I was like, some of the most dangerous spots are out on the border. He's about to get snatched up. Like everything that he does, like all the Middle Eastern spots, I've been like,
yep. Actually, on that trip, I think Jamal was like, I found a guy, he can take you to Afghanistan for like one day and then bring you back.
Oh yeah, I remember you said that in
and
the video.
We didn't do it. I kind of wish I did. I think now that I have a wife and kid, I would be less prone to doing it. I mean, something like Ukraine's a spot I would like to travel to, and I know people that have gone in the past couple years. That's just a little bit harder to.
Sam's been there.
Yeah, but you went there pre-war. Yeah. I had a fan reach out who invited me. He's like, my girlfriend's Ukrainian. We go once a year. You should come with us. And that's just like, my wife was pregnant at the time, and it's like it's harder to explain to her.
Totally.
Be like, I just want to go to Ukraine. She'd just be like, why?
Is she cool about
Why risk
your
it?
stuff in general?
Yeah, relatively so. She, I don't think would be cool with North Korea. At one point, she thought I had gone to North Korea because I was in South Korea at the border, and there's a place you can stand on the border where you're technically in North Korea. So I was like, I'm in North Korea, and she blocked my phone number. Because I think this was right after
when you should know that you should marry her.
It was right after I think the American guy had been detained there, and I hadn't told her at all. So she was like, "You went to North Korea without telling me," and I'm learning about it from an Instagram story. And I had to explain to her that I was not actually there.
The DMZ.
Yeah.
Oh man, crazy. Man.
Well, hey, please check out Giulio's special on the map.
Please.
Whenever you're in Chicago, you are always welcome on the podcast.
Even
We almost expect it.
Yeah, for sure. If you come to town, you're going on the Yak, you have to come on this podcast.
100%, dude. It's an honor and a pleasure. So I appreciate you guys having me on, man. And congrats on all the success. I mean, not surprised, but keep it ripping.
And thanks
Thank you,
for
man.
forgiving me.
And, yeah.
Thank you for being so enlightened. I didn't even need to forgive you. You got ahead of it. I appreciate it.
And once my kid gets a little older, we could do a joint trip at some point, I'm sure.
Dude, fuck yeah. I would love it. I would love to do it.
Or we could just bring both of our wives as well.
Dude, that would be
Cut out again. I love
couples
this.
retreat
This is my
in
favorite
Syria.
segment we do. This is my favorite segment we do.
Syria probably has a nice coastline. Oh,
Dude,
shit.
Mogadishu has a great
My
coastline.
favorite segment
Once
that
again,
we do
I
is
have
cut Chaps out. Like, oh no, we'll do something. He doesn't.
It's because of the chair. I can only look at one person. I can't
Dude,
look
you're
at
in too, Chaps. We'll do it. It's going to be great.
a couple's retreat on the Syrian coastline.
Oh, my wife
Syrian
would love
Riviera.
that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. It does have a coastline. I don't know. I think it did used to have beach resorts before the Civil War.
All those Alawite areas, people like wear bikinis and shit.
Oh, shit.
Like Assad was like very much trying to preserve that lifestyle.
Oh, because his wife was like a Goldman Sachs like VP.
Yeah, wasn't he like a dentist?
Yeah,
Dude,
No,
he was an eye doctor.
ophthalmologist. Yeah.
Oh, the Turkmenistan guy was a dentist. What's with this?
Oh no,
trend?
the Bhutan.
Oh, really?
The Bhutan king is a dentist.
Oh, that's hilarious too. Had no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we talked about. Did we talk about that on the show? He went to. I think
He went to Wheaton
Oxford.
College.
Or Wheaton.
Wheaton, the far cry from Oxford.
Oh no. Oh,
It's crazy that these guys go to Western
Pennsylvania?
schools.
Yeah, I think so.
Kim
Yeah,
Jong
it's
Un
very
at boarding
different than
school, bro.
Oxford.
Kim Jong Un having a roommate at La Rose in Switzerland. Fucking under a pseudonym wearing a Dennis Rodman jersey. Like that's a thing.
So I know he went to school in Switzerland, but I assumed he had his own room. Do you think he had like a roommate at the school?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's hilarious.
Saddam
to think
Hussein's
about.
son went to the language school at Lackland Air Force Base.
No way.
And
That's where they learned how to speak English.
from all that I've heard, his sons were even more fucked up than him.
Uday was an absolute
Classic.
terror.
Monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic. If you let them get to the third generation, then it usually starts to get better. But usually, like a really douchey dad will have like an evil son, and then the grandkid will be like, okay.
Downward mobility, dude.
Uday was basically like Ramsey Bolton.
Yeah, he sounds like it. All right, cool.
Cool. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, follow me, not Julio. I'm in Chicago this weekend at the Den Theater, 7:15, 9:30. It would be amazing if you'd pull up to that. Check out my YouTube videos and all that shit. Thank you guys for having me.
There we go.
Thanks. Okay. Today on Getting Cultured, we got Liam Blutman. Blutman, what question do you got for us today?
I am a 26-year-old man, and I am traveling to Alaska. I don't know where in Alaska. I was dropped into Alaska. Where do I go?
Now, is this like a hypothetical or?
Yes, a hypothetical. I like Alaska. I want to go to Alaska one time.
What kind of things do you enjoy? Like outdoor side?
The snow, the cold.
Do you like skiing? Do you like fishing?
No.
No?
No.
So,
Okay.
Is it the cold?
So you just want to go where it's cold. I mean, you can pick any spot then.
but I mean, I was going to tell him to go to Alaska sometime in July or August, where it's like not super cold, but just as beautiful, and you'll still see some snow.
Yeah, but there is issues going to Alaska in the summertime. The mosquitoes there in the summertime are horrific.
I have heard that.
Like anywhere that you're going to go that's beautiful, that's normally like a super cold environment skiing, once you get to the winter or the summertime, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, I have heard they're a different breed up there. But I mean, I'm not going to recommend that you go in the middle of the winter because just the sun does not rise. Like, do you
That's
like the
good.
sun?
I hate the sun.
You look like it. Okay.
I don't like the sun. I like the cold. I like the snow. The only thing I would care about is not dying and getting food.
Well, Anchorage is like a full-fledged city.
Yeah, nice city too.
I heard the average temperature of Chicago some years is lower than the average temperature in Anchorage.
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, because you have so much like the coastal, like right above British Columbia, for example, you're basically having the same exact climate as Washington State. So it's not that bad. And there's parts of Alaska definitely that are, I bet it's warmer in Alaska right now than it is here.
Yeah. I think you should maybe go to Whittier, Alaska. It's a town, and the whole town lives in one apartment building.
What the heck?
Yeah.
How many? What's the population there?
It's like 350.
350 people in one apartment?
Yeah. and
That's wild.
Inside that one apartment building, they have a school, a church, a mayor's office, like a convenience store, grocery store.
Bizarre place.
And then they do have a bar across the street run by a guy from Taiwan.
Do you have any connections with Inuit people?
No.
No.
You could go and maybe harvest a seal. See if we can work that out.
Harvest the seal.
Is that even legal?
You could do one a year if you're with an Inuit person.
Oh, okay.
That's why I asked if you
You're
had
allowed
any,
to kill one a year.
I bet there's some Inuit
Yeah.
yak listeners.
Yep, sure.
Be nice.
I mean, I think the most northern town in the U.S. is
I don't know how to say that place, but I know what you're thinking of.
Utqiagvik. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I think it's
Utqiagvik?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I think that's it. I mean, Seward is kind of one of the outdoor fishing capitals of Alaska, which is beautiful, but it seems like you're not.
Nah, I
Super outdoorsy guy.
I can't fish.
Great
I'm not
spot
an
to go
outdoorsy
whaling
guy.
there.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, you kind of love darkness. Do you have some darkness inside you?
No, I prefer the dark though. Don't like the sun. Don't like bright lights.
Whittier, it's a pretty kind of like dark spot. It's connected to the rest of the state by this tunnel that closes down at night, so you can only get in and out from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or something, and then it's just and then you're just trapped in Whittier.
This is the apartment place?
Yeah,
This
it's just the
place
apartment.
is crazy.
Yeah, it is wild. I think it got ranked weirdest town in all of the United States.
Do you have any interest in the Aurora Borealis? I always say that.
What's that?
Like the Northern Lights?
Those are cool. I think those would be cool to see, yeah. I prefer that more than like fishing or camping or whatever. Those
Yeah.
are cooler to see, to think about.
How about cruises? Do you like cruises?
Nah, I went on a cruise once, didn't like it, wasn't vibing with it.
Because that's a very popular way to see Alaska. You do a summer cruise and you just cruise up along the coast. I think like you can't compare like a Caribbean cruise to an Alaskan cruise. I think it's probably like if you hated your, where did you go on a cruise?
I don't even remember. I was over it after the first few hours, and you're just trapped on a
Okay.
on a boat in the middle of nowhere, and there's all these people you don't know, and I don't want to talk to them. No offense, I just don't know them. And it was a week of that. That was tough for me.
Okay, so we're going to rule out Alaskan cruise. I mean, I've heard good things. You're just cruising in the water. You're seeing all these like wildlife. Like, do you like moose?
Yeah, those are cool. Favorite animal's a penguin. I don't know how they're doing in Alaska though. More of an Antarctic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
I
penguins.
think Alaska probably has 0 penguins.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
penguins.
figure. I like polar bears, but you find out they're deadly in there.
No, it's still a state, and it's not a penguin, but same kind of vibe, Maine, with the puffins. So you could get like the penguin essence. They're like penguin adjacent, but I think cuter. And you get everything that you would get from Alaska and Maine.
Really?
Yeah, although you don't get
Not the mountains.
Glaciers.
And like, yeah, right. But a lot
You
of
do get mountains. Maine's got some mountains. Not as impressive as
right.
the Alaskan
Not the
mountains.
same tier.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think you'll get to Alaska.
One day.
It wasn't like mostly sports sending people to random places. There was some sort of, like, isn't that why, didn't Rico Bosco have to go to Alaska?
That was for Pick Central. Marty went to Alaska.
Okay, yeah.
I was trying to go, but I couldn't make it work schedule wise. But he and Dukes have phenomenal time. Mostly sports. My bold prediction for 2025 was the town of Chicken, Alaska, will not have a nuclear bomb dropped on them. So we're hoping that holds true.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
That's another one of those bizarre Alaskan towns. Chicken.
Yeah.
I'll
They
kill
don't
that
have
guy, yeah.
electricity.
I think during World War II or something, like one of our most important military bases was up in Alaska, and they picked the location because it had the most cloud cover throughout majority of the year of any place in the country. So even if someone like wanted to bomb it, there's probably only like 4 days a year where you could, because the rest of the time it's just completely covered by clouds. Yeah.
I like that fact.
Yeah. It's a fun fact. Have you been outside of the country before?
Toronto twice, Montreal once.
Okay.
Montreal, I liked a lot. Toronto's whatever.
Do you have a desire to go abroad, say Europe or Asia, Africa?
I don't know if it's a desire. I guess like once upon a time, or not once upon, that's the wrong phrasing. I'd like to go once, but like I don't have a burning passion or desire. There's places I'd like to go, but if I don't ever go, I'm not going to like be mad about it. I think the Scandinavian countries would be cool. I think Japan, South Korea would be cool. I think Russia would be cool. I think, what else is there?
A lot of cold spots.
Yeah, I like the cold.
Okay.
France, maybe.
Are you from the Los Angeles area? No.
I grew up. Well, I was born in L.A. area, and then when I was like 4 or 5, I moved to Vegas, and then moved here last year.
Okay, so
That's probably why you don't want to be in the hot.
yeah, that really
Potentially, yes.
turned you off.
But Vegas falls and winters are good. It gets cold and windy, and those are good. The summer's just
Brutal.
yeah. I however many days summer is usually inside.
Now, do you enjoy long flights or do you dread them?
I used to have a gift where I could just sleep on any flight, and I've lost that as I've got older, so I'm starting to dread long flights. I'm just bored. There's nothing I can do. I'm just bored.
You take me as a guy that probably wouldn't do drugs to help you sleep?
I don't do any drugs, yeah.
Yeah, I knew it.
And then my legs just get so tired and aching on long flights, or on any flights rather, because they get stuck up against the seat in front of me.
Yeah.
And then I don't know when this started. I'm not for this. When the person in front of you pushes their seat back, what's up with that?
Well, I do that, I think, on every flight.
I feel bad.
I hate to admit it. Yeah. I do, but it's like they have a right to put their seat back too.
And if everybody does it, it's fine for everybody.
Yeah.
But then the person in the back row can't do it, or else they're going into the wall.
Stop being poor.
Yeah, stop being poor. Book your flights earlier. Pay a little extra to choose your seat.
I love the back of the plane too, so that's a fault.
He loves the cold. He loves the dark. He loves the back.
What's your ideal vacation? All right, so we take off. I'm right by the bathroom.
Flying next to the bathroom to a cold, dark place. That is Liam Blutman, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recline, and you see those videos of people when someone reclines and the person's just punching the seat and shit. It's like, chill the fuck.
Yeah, I would never do that. I just get defeated, and that's tough, and then I just won't do it because I don't want it to happen to the person behind me, and then I just sit on the plane and keep looking at the little thingy in front of me, counting down how long till the plane ends.
So you raw dog flights, you don't watch movies or TV shows, you just look at the little thingy that shows you how far away your destination is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I somehow knew you'd be a raw dogging guy too. Well, Liam, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course.
Yeah, you're welcome on the plane anytime.
Thank you. I enjoyed this plane. This plane was very fun.
Yeah.
Lots of room.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Bing, boom.